Ready.
Silence it for the meeting. Those for, no silence for today. We're recording a live stream. Oh.
All right, this is the call to order. This is the, here we go. This is the Durham Village Commission. Today is June 4th, 2025. It is 4 o'clock PM. We're here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 204. The next business meeting will be Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at 12 PM noon here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 205. Next hearing will be Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025 at 4 PM here at 111 North Front Street, second floor, room to be announced. We'll go ahead and swear in staff. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your name?
Nick Urson.
Thank you. And then we'll do the introduction of commissioners present, starting on the left.
Rachel Schultz.
Ned Thiel.
Anthony Hartke, chair.
Charissa Durst. Aaron McCoy.
All right, any items for public forum?
No.
No item for public forum. We'll move on to the approval of the staff approvals. Staff approvals begin on page 7 of the agenda. Are there any recusals from the commissioners present?
I have none.
I have none. None. None.
I need to recuse myself from COA 2500390-385 Jackson Street.
I move to,
Hold on, I usually have one.
oh, sorry.
So you're all doing your recusals and I got time to read these. All right, I think it's it.
Cool. Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify the staff approvals.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Approvals are approved. Moving on to the minutes from last meeting, May 7th, 2025.
I've got a couple of corrections.
Sure.
On page 6, under the conceptuals for 728 South 6th Street, the final commissioner comments is the commission recommended calling out for the oral study for clarify. I think it should be clarification.
Group of clarification.
Yeah, so to clarify. And then on 180 Reinhardt Avenue, under commissioner comments, exterior materials, there was a comment recorded that the commission confirmed that could be supportive of a tension wire railing similar to what was approved in application, blah, 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 764 South 6th Street, and that they would be more supportive of metal railing over wood railing. I don't think all the commissions were on board with a tension wire railing.
Okay.
I think one said that,
Sure.
but I don't think the rest were.
Do you want us to clarify that it was
Just
one
one,
or
just one
one
commissioner.
commissioner? Okay.
Yeah, to something to that effect.
And that was on the wire railing.
On the wire, on the, yeah,
The cable thing?
yeah.
Yeah, the thing.
Were you the one?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was me, but okay. Yeah, but I thought it wasn't whole, it wasn't, I didn't want it recorded that it was the whole commission was on board with it, as if it was a given. I think it's still open for discussion, not to say it's wrong, further discussion.
Absolutely. I can.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I move to approve the minutes as amended from last meeting.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Motion passes. We will move ahead to the first item of the agenda, COA 2500519-982 Yeager Street. Once you're settled, if you'll please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Jim Wright.
Thank you. Before we go further, this mentions the same address, but a different COA number. Is this a comment for this application?
It is for that application. The COA number they're operating under is the one that BZA had for the design.
Okay. All right, you're sworn in. Nick, go ahead and read it in. Need to read in the number one.
Oh, yes, sorry.
It's okay, it's okay.
You've been off.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Been away for a while.
This application is a request for action for a variance or zoning change. The variances requested are section 3332.38H, private garage, to allow habitable space within a detached garage that is not connected to a habitable space within the existing single-unit dwelling. Section 3332.38G, private garage, to increase the allowable height of the garage height from 15 feet to 22.79 feet to allow for an exercise space. And section 3332.26C, minimum side yard permitted to reduce the required minimum side yard on the south side of the structure from 5 feet to 3.15 feet. Staff analysis is the commission had no comments at the business meeting. And we note this design for the proposed garage addition, demolition, and construction was approved by the commission at the May 2025 GBC hearing, with the condition that final drawings and site plan be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval. Following staff review, the submitted variants do follow the approved design from that hearing. The recommendation is that the commission recommend the variances as submitted. The basis for that staff recommendation is from the German Village Guidelines on page 139 on zoning variances.
All right. Anything else to add?
No, just a clarification. What's HPO staff? I'm sorry. You, okay,
Historic
Okay.
Preservation Office staff, so it's
Okay.
all of us upstairs who
okay.
work all day.
Anthony?
Yes.
I noticed on the reading of the variances on section 3332.26C, I think the minimum side yard request is on the north side of the structure, not the south, if I'm reading that right.
Pull up the previous.
Yes.
I believe you're correct.
Space groups listing.
So looking at the plan, north is to the right, correct?
Yes.
So, yeah, so it should be north side of the variance. We do have a public comment, an email sent into HPO, so I'll read that in to the record. Titled Comments RE Variance Applications for 982 Yeager Street. They noted COA 2500204, but let the record show that the application for today is COA 2500519. Item 1, no actual hardship exists, only the unsupported allegation that this house is too small with too few rooms for some exercise equipment. However, when the actual space in the house is considered, it is obvious this is not a small house and there is more than enough room in this very spacious home. There is a substantial multi-story residence with a 2-story addition on the back and a large finished basement. Per the auditor, it has 3,810 square feet, 10 rooms, 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, and 1 half bath. That is more than sufficient for a treadmill, extra cycle, and weights. Therefore, there is absolutely no need to try to create that space elsewhere, such as a limited garage area. And in the requested variance for a separate habitable space is completely unsupported by the facts, should be denied. It is also noted that German Village Guidelines at page 92 require looking to using basement areas and rearranging interior space before seeking to build an addition. Instead of providing actual numbers for the space in the house, the application states a vague notion of, quote, modern living needs, end quote, which are not being met as the rationale for building this separate structure. Even if the unsubstantiated idea of modern needs exists at all, it obviously would only be for modern areas, e.g. Dublin, New Albany, or new suburban communities, not for the historic limited spaces of German Village. Since there is no hardship, what is left as the basic picture then? It is that of 2 habitable structures. One is the main house with 3,810 square feet and 4.5 baths. Next to it would be the proposed separate habitable structure with 544 square feet of living space, fully 34 feet long and 16 feet wide, with a vaulted ceiling and its own full bath and linen cabinet and garage. Obvious features of a studio apartment, and there is no justification for building such a second home / living space. Item number 2, the variances requested for height and for side yard are both substantial in nature considering the area. Those variances would result in construction of an oversized 34 by 25 and 23 foot tall 2-story habitable structure erected almost on top of our backyard, just 3 feet away and towering over it. There is no doubt it would be too tall, too big, and too close to us. The increased height variance and reduced side yard variance are completely inappropriate in this small setting. Our adjoining property would certainly suffer a substantial detriment as a result of these variances. With this intrusive building virtually right on top of us. Also, the essential character of our German Village neighborhood would be substantially negatively altered thereby. Instead of this pair of historic spruce trees and modest existing garage, there would be a two-story blank frame wall like the side of any suburban house or apartment complex. This is not historic German Village. Instead of these variances, in addition to the house would seem a far better way to add more space if that is desired for whatever reason, although it's not necessary at all for exercise equipment. It would be easily accessible from inside the house with utilities and HVAC and 4 full baths already in place and without the need to construct any separate habitable structure. The footprint already exists as a large back porch. However, in this large house, there is no actual need at all for either a house addition or a two-story garage addition for some exercise equipment, and therefore the variance requested is not justified and should be denied. We appreciate your consideration of these matters, Jacob and Jill Pruitt. End of remarks. Anything you want to add or address in those comments? If not, then the commission.
I have nothing to add or address.
Okay. All right, questions, comments from the commission regarding the application? I would like to mention, just for the record, based on the public comments, specifically, the variance for section 3332.26 C, that is the variance required for a side yard. They're not within the 3-foot setback of any structure, but it's the minimum side yard. One question, actually. If it was 3-foot setback, what's driving the 5-foot setback requirement?
Well, I assume it was a 5-foot setback, I believe, originally, and we're asking for 3.15, reducing it to 3.15.
Typically 3-foot setbacks.
Yeah.
So just for the record, 3 foot is typically what we see, what's required. I'm not sure what's driving it.
Everybody goes to 2 foot,
Yeah.
just because that's the fire.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's driving a 5-foot requirement from that section. So I would say that the 3.15 is typically more than what a 3-foot would require. The other two of the private garage, habitable space above, that's typical anytime we have a any kind of living space above a garage. It's not an atypical thing for an approved architecture of this style. The height of the garage, typically, anytime you have habitable space, we're above 15 feet to start with. So to me, I think the variances are in line with the architecture that we had previously approved.
And I think we also discussed the fact that there was a garage down the street that was almost the size, that's not as much. Yeah, so there's a garage down there that's higher.
Yeah.
It's not the extreme.
As well as they're lower, the roof.
Yeah, we did.
Yep. All right, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move on COA 2500519928982 Yeager Street to recommend the zoning variances.
Second.
Any question on the motion? All those in favor? Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Nikki is back for your files.
I've got it digital.
Thank you very much.
I haven't received the COA yet. Do I need to resubmit some plans or?
Yes, I was reading the notes for this one. It looks like there were some minor alterations to the plan.
Well, there was a question about the trees and I submitted that.
I can check with my colleague that was covering while I was out, and
Okay.
I'll reach out to you tomorrow. to see
All right,
what-
very
what you
good.
need.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Yep, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 2, COA 2400597, 880 Purdy Alley. Once you're settled, if you raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Brad Heminger.
Thank you. Nick?
This is a request for action for landscaping. To install a new 18-foot by 20 feet concrete parking area with a 6-inch granite curb per submitted site plan. Noting that parking area is gravel currently. To install a new brick wall with iron fence, including a 12-inch brick base with 3-foot iron picket fence to replicate the sample photo. To replace an existing wooden gate with new gates. To install 3 new window boxes per the site plan. To install a new west elevation brick stoop. To install new 180 square foot brick patio in the rear yard. To replace the rear east side gravel driveway with brick for the submitted documentation. And to build a 4-foot wrought iron fence in the rear east side with no brick pillars, as previously requested. Fence to start on the south side of the brick driveway. Staff analysis, the following is from the January 2025 GBC hearing, where the application was continued to allow the applicant time to provide updated materials. Commissioner comments. The commission determined that the brick for the driveway would be the most appropriate option and recommended a herringbone brick pattern for tire maneuverability on the brick. The commissioners concluded a rounded brick stoop would not be appropriate and recommended the applicant consider wood and or limestone for any new stoops or porches. Any type of brick wall would not be appropriate in German Village. The existing brick walls in German Village were installed before the German Village guidelines and or without approval. The commission recommended an iron fence with plants for screening to achieve the security and privacy goals. The commissioners at the business meeting requested an elevation drawing of the fence. And our staff recommendation for this hearing is to continue to allow the applicant time to pursue a landscaping plan that is more in line with code and guidelines following commissioner feedback. The basis for our recommendation, the standards for site improvements A and B, the German Village guidelines for walks, sidewalks, driveways, patios, and parking lots, 1 through 5, the German Village guidelines on fences and walls, 2 through 7, or 2, 3, 5.
Anything else to add?
No.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Did you get the requested elevation drawing?
I don't believe so.
We requested an elevation of fence. Did you say that it doesn't have the brick pillars, or because the drawing here shows it has brick pillars? It's just crossed out.
Yeah, that was amended.
Okay.
Yeah. And we changed it to just an iron fence without the brick pillars or the brick 12-inch base.
Yeah. So we did ask for an elevation of that, see what that looked like with the fence and the gates, et cetera. My question is, what are the elevations and grade offsets at the gravel at the top of the granite curb of the brick walk? Can't tell what that's going on. What does the new wood gate and wood fence to match existing look like? Because we don't know what that is by the hatch. And what do the 2 gates at the south property line look like? I know there's an example of a fence gate. I just don't know if that's what you're proposing.
Yeah, they're not there. There never was one in the front. There was one in the back. There was just a fence in the front.
Yeah. So is that the gate you're proposing?
Yes,
Okay, 2 of those?
yes.
For the iron fence, excuse me. The last 2 pages, 3 pages of the application, is that the fence style you're looking at for the iron fence?
Something very similar to that. We haven't picked one out until we knew if we could actually do it or not.
I'll speak for the full commission, but typically iron fences are appropriate. I think that's a bit too ornate. It's a pretty simple house. The fence should be simple in design. This would be seen more on large city park style mansions.
We can scale down.
Yeah, a typical Fortin fence that has the standard pickets.
Yep.
I would say this is even too ornate for decibel.
Would not disagree. But yeah, Fortin has some pretty standard styles that you see all over the village.
Who does?
Fortin Ironworks,
Okay.
you see their stuff all over. It's the standard single round picket fences that your iron fences you see all over. And is the plan to be iron or aluminum? Well, for iron, it needs to be iron. not-
Yeah. I would prefer to have iron.
It's gonna be 4 foot tall, okay. Data plan does show brick parking. Curve between the brick. Yeah, so to Ned's point, the gates, would like to know more information about the gates. So the rounded top ones is what was for the
That's for on
south.
the south side, correct? The gate there next to the parking spots, would be something that would match the fence.
So I think for your application, you need to update this drawing and get rid of the brick pillars. And show us better how it's all gonna come together, put together.
The fence that you mentioned, is that which wood fence are we
That's
matching?
right where the arrows are.
The grill, next to the grill.
That little piece off the house, the new wood fence and gates to match existing. We don't know what existing looks like.
Do we have a picture of what's existing?
There isn't a fence there now.
Not a fence there?
No.
Okay, so it's something new,
Mm-hmm.
so we need an elevation of that.
Yes, we didn't know what the fence design would be that we're matching.
So we need to pick out what we want. Okay.
The new brick stoop is on here, and we had comments from the last time that the stoop would be not appropriate as installed, which was done with that COI.
Also part of the next application too, so maybe we can discuss it there.
Okay, do we want to have that stoop on the next application, or we want to keep the stoop in this application?
It goes to the next one.
That makes sense because
Yeah.
the next one is completed and this is not.
Get the complete stoop. Okay,
So let's take this out of that,
Sure.
out of this application.
yeah. I think that's, yeah, the window boxes on a frame building.
And let me just, we had another, last month, another one with window boxes, so I've been walking around the village looking at window boxes. They are all over the place. Material wise, width wise, some are wider than the window, some are shorter than the one, significantly shorter, so we've got everything. Just to give everybody a, thank you, Eric. Yeah, so I think almost anything goes, unless it's really out of whack. So.
Did you say 4 or 3?
3. 2 on the front and 1 on the north side.
Does the commission have like requirements for materiality of window boxes?
We've got wood, we've got fiberglass, we've got metal, we've got the baskets with the rush filler, we've got,
Got everything.
yeah. And they all look good. It's just as long as they don't, in attachment damage any historic fabric. It's kind of rule.
I think that's the key. How it's attached, what's attaching to, and if it's historic fabric.
Yeah.
So I guess the question for us, is how to move forward with this application, is there approval based on receiving final information for the fence and gates? Are we okay with the gate that's been proposed? I have an issue with the gate.
I'd like to see updated drawings.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to see updated drawings before we can approve the landscape plan in totality.
So we're talking the gate in the back there by the parking spots.
I think we need to know what that is, what it's supposed to be,
Okay.
what the fence style is, what the gate's gonna be. For the south 2 gates, which you showed the rounded top. I personally believe that the rounded top is not appropriate style for German Village. We'll get into more of that in the next application. But I don't speak for the whole commission. Is there anybody okay with this? Do they have issues with this?
I agree with you.
I think we're only allowed in this up arch pattern, square gate, is that? There was an arch recently, but it may not have been the shape of the gate, maybe just the shape.
Is that one of the ones down on the south side of City Park
Some,
that was set far back?
yeah, that might have been it.
No, there's a square top with an arch cut out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So
Typically, they're square.
square top gates. I think the gate style should be a square top gate
Okay.
or flat top gate. think that's feedback on everything.
More fence, less doorway.
Is there any other information you're looking for us? Of course, we can't approve without the updated plan, so need to be, we would continue the application, allow you to go update, then come back next month.
So you want the plan changed, this plan changed, plus a elevation of the fence?
Want to know what proposing typically, if you have a 4-foot iron fence, are you proposing a 6-foot privacy fence? Are you proposing a 4-foot privacy fence?
I'm not sure. My daughter's been submitting all this for me. She put in there 4. I was thinking 5. We've been broke into 3 times now, and we want to get a little bit more security in the back. Be a little bit harder to jump over a 5-foot fence than a 4.
Sure.
I don't want to go 6 foot. That's too high.
Sure.
So I'm thinking probably 5 foot.
I think for our purposes, this is a rear yard. It's on an alley. I think the case could be made for a 5-foot iron fence. If this was more on a more visible public way, I would typically say the planting should be on the public side, the north side of the fence to kind of hide the 5-foot fence. But I'm not sure I'd say that in this application because of the location, how far back it is. I think it's okay. I agree. So if you're gonna do a 5-foot iron fence, then on the next application, identify you're doing a 5-foot wood fence or a 6-foot wood fence.
Okay.
And come with the actual example of what the wrought iron fence is gonna look like.
Picture of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Or Cadillac cut, whatever it may be.
okay,
And,
It shows what you're gonna do,
and the gates.
yeah, as well.
okay.
And then the 5-foot wood fence with gate to match existing, if you can provide a photo of that.
Go to the fence or an example of the same around.
So we're talking the 2 wood gates that are squared off? You want squared off?
We need a drawing of those.
Yeah, okay.
And we also need a drawing or some graphic depiction of what this wood fence coming off the side of the house with the gate is.
Near the grill.
That would be all metal from the house across the gate,
Okay.
back, and then over to the
We
other.
need a drawing of all that. So we can
Right,
see it all
okay.
in one piece and revise the drawing, plans to reflect that.
So the commission is saying they'd like a elevation drawing of all the fencing or just a sample photo if it's all gonna be iron?
I would be okay with the sample photo of the proposed fence style
Okay.
or cut sheet from the manufacturer,
And then
same for the gates.
you could locate the posts on the plan,
On the plan.
Okay.
that we know what the length of the sections are.
And a sample photo of the gate would also
Yeah.
suffice for the purpose.
Okay,
Continue.
continue.
On, Mr. Chairman, on item COA 2400597, 880 Purdy Avenue, I move to continue.
Second.
I'll make the one clarification that the porch is being taken care of in the next application.
Yeah, yes, that we removed the stoop from this application. The application has amended to continue.
All right, any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. We'll move ahead to item 3, COA 250445880 Purdy Alley. Let the record show the applicant is already sworn in. Nick?
This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration. To replace 6 non-original windows with black Marvin double hung windows, to be, with the configuration to be 6/1. To replace the aluminum siding with the LP Smart Side, which is an OBS material lap siding, and paint with Sherwin-Williams red tomato to match existing. To replace the front door on the west side with an 8-inch high arch TDL mahogany door stained black. To replace the rear door and extend entrance on the east side with an 8-foot high Marvin French door. To remove tattered window awnings and shutters. To replace shutters painted Sherwin-Williams alabaster. To remove the wooden porch and replace it with a wood overhang and 2 corbels painted Sherwin-Williams alabaster. To replace the front door wooden steps with brick in the rounded formation. To replace gutters with a 6-inch curved gutter and rounded downspouts painted Sherwin-Williams alabaster. And to add 8 recessed exterior lights on the soffit. and add 2 Carolina gas lanterns in the model Savannah, one on each side of the front, the west elevation door. Staff analysis is at the business meeting. The commission requested cut and product sheets for all items that were placed, including windows, doors, lights, and anything else, and requested any photos of the property prior to the work beginning. The commission also noted that the brick stoop was not in line with the code and guidelines and recommended the owner come prepared to discuss the window replacements. Staff recommendation is to continue the application to allow time for the applicant to pursue staff reports the landscaping plan, but an overall alteration plan for this one that is more in line with code and guidelines. The basis for that recommendation is City Code 31611, 1 through 6, and then 9 through 12. The standards for site improvements, A, the German Village Guidelines on entrances and doors, 1 and 4, the German Village Guidelines on windows, 1, the German Village Guidelines on exterior considerations for fences and walls, 3, 4, 5, and the German Village Guidelines for site lighting, street furniture, pools, fountains, and gazebos, 1 and 3.
Anything else to add?
No.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I suggest that we approach this discussion as if none of this work had happened. And that this is coming to us as an original application for demolition of existing material, proof and evidence of whatever was there beforehand, and is the replacement, if demolition is allowable, is the replacement appropriate?
That's a fair approach, pretty standard how we would do a work done without a COA, if someone came to us.
So I made a list of my concerns about this application. I'll go through it first. Everybody please join in and whatever. I think first is we need evidence that the existing windows are not original and/or historical.
Mhm.
OBS, which is oriented strand board siding, I don't believe it's appropriate for historic structures.
On that note, I would ask that we have the product information for what this is, just to make sure we know we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
Because LP Smart Side, I believe, I don't think it's oriented strand board. I think it's a composite.
That's what-
It is strand board, and then it's covered with a coating that will make it waterproof.
So we need that information.
Is
Product.
Smart Side a different product than the test case approved test cases for Smart Side? Well,
That's what I wanted the product information for, to make
Yeah.
sure we can compare. The Smart Side does make a composite material siding that's newer. Want to make sure we're apples to apples.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And this has a composite coating on it, I was told.
yeah, we need to take a look at that. Quote, existing unquote front door appears to have a transom and to be historical. I think we need evidence required that is not historical to allow for demolition of it. Conceptually, if demolition is permitted with the proposed door, be appropriate for this type of historic structure. I think that's a conversation to have. Is the existing quote unquote rear door historical? Provide evidence that it is not to support its demolition also, and explain what extending the east side entrance is in your application. I have no idea what that means. No comment on the awnings. Are the existing shutters historic and evidence that their condition warrants replacement? And what are the replacement shutters made of?
Real quick. Extending east side entrance, I believe that's going from a single person door to a double door.
Is that what that means? Okay. All right. Provide evidence that the existing wood porch on the west side is not historical or of such condition to allow demolition. Conceptually, if demolition is permitted, would the proposed overhang with brackets and the rounded stoop of brick construction be appropriate? That's a conversation to have. No comment on replacement of gutters, downspouts, or the recessed exterior soffit lighting somebody else may have. And was there information provided on the casting?
Along the items of the soffit, I would point out, the soffit style has changed from what was there before to now. Originally, that little return on the north side did not exist. It was not an enclosed soffit. It was just overhanged on either side. So there would not have been a closed soffit from lights to mount it in the first place. The previous application has photos from Google Street View from a certain time
Can you
period.
give us a picture of the end of this house before?
Street view.
There were before pictures up there earlier.
Application 2.
So the other location, senior center.
Oh,
There you go.
So that was the west facade.
Yeah, I'm looking for the north. Yeah, there we go.
So
You significantly changed this house.
I don't believe so, no. If you want to go through item by item,
Yeah.
the first thing you asked about was windows. The window up on top there was an original window that was falling apart. You can see the grids are in the top window, there's nothing in the bottom, so we wanted to duplicate that. All the rest of the windows, the other 5 windows in the house were vinyl replacement windows. When that was done, I don't know.
Can you give us the evidence of that?
Not anymore, no.
do you have, perhaps like, real estate photos when you purchased the property from the?
I can get them.
Because that would be the
would be helpful,
pre-interior
yeah.
photos that could help the
Yeah.
commission there.
I could get those.
I will state that if we can have the evidence that that top window was original, bottoms were vinyl, I think that is the avenue to doing 6/1 across all, because evidence would show that the 6/1 being the original is the style that was first there, and that would be appropriate for the other window.
Right. We tried to keep the look of that house pretty much. We made it the same color. We made the trim the same color. We put shutters back on like it was. We put new windows and doors in because those were horrible. That front door actually was an interior door that somebody put on the front. It did have a transom over it. That was in bad shape, and we have a stained glass sign or whatever you want to call it with 880 on it that we're going to hang inside the house.
So for the shutters that were there were faux shutters. It's been the stance of the commission and our guidelines that we would not put faux shutters in the house. If there were faux shutters there previously, once they come down, they don't go back. And the shutters that were put back on the house in the new work don't match what was there in the first place. They're definitely not sized to be operable shutters. They're very narrow, which does not match anything in the village in terms of shutters, either operable, original, or faux. So what's there, I believe, is inappropriate from the start. Typically, we encourage the removal of faux shutters whenever possible, because they would not have been there in the first place. Unless there was evidence that there were operable shutters, either photographic evidence or old hardware on the old windows showing that would be the avenue for putting shutters back onto the house as operable shutters. So that's my piece on the shutters specifically.
Talk about the front door.
But we're quick, the awnings, we take awnings off, it's fine, they're fabric.
Yeah.
They typically would, in the past, would come up and down with the seasons. If they don't go up, they don't go up. Not a problem with that coming off. Your comment about the siding, the trim going back, I got no problem with the color of the siding. Material of the siding, we gotta find out what that siding material actually is. The trim and detailing, it's not like for like. If you can pull up the previous photo. North facade of that house compared to the north facade of what's been done. Significant change all across the eave. There was beadboard underneath the soffit exposed. That's all gone. Now it's a flat soffit. The trim, the freeze band that goes along.
That was vinyl on the soffits.
Okay.
You can see it in that last picture.
Your soffits and your rakes and your returns, etc., are not vernacular German village. They are more verging on Greek revival.
There's quite a few houses with those on because
but
that's
not-
where,
But not of this size and location and type of house. This house was built without the returns, like, that is what should still be there, sir. That is how this house is historic. You have significantly modified this property architecturally without a COA. I don't know if that front porch is historic or not, we'd have to know. I certainly can tell you that as architecturally pleasant as your front door is, with the hood and the brackets, it is not architecturally appropriate for this house. It is way scales above what this house is. I love it. I think it's great and inappropriate.
So when there's other places around with the same thing, that doesn't matter, I
There's
think.
one that I can think of, and that's the
So-
gift store over on Mohawk.
On Mohawk, that's where we got the idea.
And that was built like that as an addition back in the day, before it was even an historic district. So that is appropriate architecture for that. Not an adaptation for your house.
Okay,
Sorry to say that, but that's
The
the way it is.
rectangular front door of the transom is the typical architectural language of the village. It's everywhere, it's standard. Round top doors, we don't see them unless it was done as a specific architectural style in the past for a reason prior to the commission being in place before historic district. Yeah. I would say my gut tells me that there probably was not a porch on this property originally.
it was added, I'm guessing, within the last 20 or 30 years.
And I would say it was there since 2007, that's as far back as Google Street View goes.
Mm-hmm,
But without evidence, typically if you would come to us before the work was done, we'd had investigation, we'd look for, okay, is the lumber marked of a certain vintage, and we can prove that's not original. For lack of evidence, we have to assume that it's historic. That's the stance we take. So to have it all gone, it eliminates that ability for you, for the applicant, to prove that it's not historic. Unless you have some documentation somewhere, some old photos of the property showing it wasn't there, we can say, yeah, we're gonna take this off because it wasn't original. But we go back to what would be more original, not this, which has no bearing originality anywhere on the property.
Do we have any historic photographs? Do you know?
On this particular one, I do not think the file was closely examined, so there's definitely more information staff can pull from that file for you all.
I thought you may have some stuff too.
My recommendation, staff might have some in the historic files. They have the German Village Society, talk with Crystal over there, this HP advocate. They've got house files that may have photos, documentation that may prove some of your stuff wasn't historic and we can move forward with it. And the other option is the Ohio Historical, I was gonna say Society, but now it's the Ohio History
Connection.
Ohio History Connection up on 71, like Old Crew Stadium. They may have some documentation as well. Those are your three avenues of trying to find full photos. Half round gutters, those are appropriate. That's what was there before. But all the fascia and soffit trim has been altered significantly.
I think they were rectangle gutters there before modern gutters that we took off and put old ones on.
Typically, what we.
Yep, they're square.
Yeah, okay, so what we typically, our stance on the gutters is if your fascia board at the end of your wrapper tails is vertical, then the K-style gutters, the OGs would be appropriate. If your fascia is cut at an angle, so it's perpendicular to the wrapper tails,
Right.
half rounds. That's kind of A to B. Looking at this picture, can't tell specifically without zooming in if it's a vertical or a perpendicular cut.
It was slanted.
Perpendicular, then half rounds would be appropriate.
Mhm.
What's there currently, it's a mixed bag, and I can't say that it's appropriate across the board.
Venting and soffit.
Yeah, soffit venting at a minimum, which should be paid to match.
Well,
There's two that are missing.
they're missing. I got them. I got Scott put them back in.
The original soffit didn't have cover soffit, so.
No.
We're not an issue.
We also trying to help that detail to make sure that it's more of a linear soffit vent, so there's not pucks
Oh.
that sit. First, it's a little bit more good.
Is the commission, okay with lights in the soffit?
There's been some back and forth about lights over the years.
There's lots of examples where it makes sense.
Yeah, they should be reset, they should be hidden, should not be readily visible for the public view. Guidelines, I believe, read through it, states it should be landscape-based lighting up on the house as opposed to putting lighting in historic materials. In this case, the historic soffit's gone, so your lights are not in the historic soffit. So I think that's all part of that soffit condition being inappropriate. The gas lanterns, gas lights that were proposed. The commission in general doesn't have a problem with gas. I've got a problem with gas, but I'm one vote, so it won't be the deal killer. One versus two fixtures is a question. So typically it's one fixture per door. The original photos show one electric fixture to the north side of the door. I don't think two is appropriate. I think the two fixtures is trying to react to the more ornate arched style, which is inappropriate from the start. So I would say one fixture would be the appropriate thing.
And previously, the fixture was under the porch, and now it's outside of the porch. So it's not even really lighting the door.
Typically, the door fixtures historically were there for lighting up the entry, not for lighting up the street for security purposes.
Well, the gas lights are just for effect.
Yeah.
We're gonna put a light in the top of the arch, so the porch will be lit.
Typically, the porch roof lighting is the more appropriate location if there is a porch.
Mhm.
Yeah. You guys are going through it.
I have one last comment question. So the rounded brick porch, that's not a typical style we'd see,
More material.
specifically on a more, we're gonna say the word plain, not meant to be a derogatory term, it's a plain style house, standard worker type of house. It would be a typical two-step potential stoop back then, probably not a stoop, just two steps.
Probably would, but
If you had a survey done of the property, does your porch stick out into the right of way?
I have not had a survey done, no.
So
It's the same distance as that porch was and the step. We built it to the same spot.
from a city code perspective, once you get rid of the original, what was there, that was grandfathered in. Once it's gone, now it's a whole new ballgame. So I would recommend as a homeowner, go to one and check to find out where your property line is. So the city doesn't come back to you with a encroaching upon the public right of way. Just good recommendation. So with all that, I don't think we can approve as submitted. Options are, we can continue the application. You can go back and decide what alterations you want to make to the application, which require rework on the property. The other option is we can vote on it as submitted. If there's any amendments you want to make, we can make those at the table. If we deny the application, that opens up your opportunities for appeal. You can come back to us on appeal under the cases of either new information, i.e. Photos showing historic, non-historic stuff. You can come back under hardship, so financial or other hardship, which is outlined in the city code. You can also go the route of appeals, commission appeals. They gotta come back to us first before commission.
that's
appeals.
first.
Where
They come
The
back
Board
to
of
us
Appeals?
before they go to board of commission appeals.
it's not a requirement, but it is a typical recommendation of staff.
Okay. So if you want to go to the board of commissioning appeals, who could rule in favor or against us, they're our adjudicating body above us. There's arbitration, and there's another option out there. I forget what it is off the top of my head. But staff can help you on those three avenues if we deny the application. So anything you want to add before I ask him how he wants to proceed?
I was just going to add for the commission, with just the staff recommendation being to continue due to the long list of materials, the commission is still requesting to have those reviewed, but it is ultimately up to, we'll review together, so.
So my question to you is, would you like us to continue the application? Or do you want us to take a vote and give you that route?
We've already put $200,000 in this house. I can't afford to alter it, put it back the way you want it put back. Our goal was to make a nice looking place. We didn't know that you needed to get a certificate of conformance when we started. We didn't know that until we hired a guy that lives by my daughter that did the plan for the landscaping. And when he did that, he said, well, you know, you got to go to the commission to get this okayed. And I'm like, I didn't know that. The windows that we put in, somebody gave me a list of the windows that you guys wanted, and we picked off of there. That's what we put in. So I guess I
have to ask a question, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Did you get a building permit for this?
no. And I can tell you why. I live in Ottawa County. I work with a contractor a lot. I'm retired, but I work part-time with them. In Ottawa County, we don't need a permit to do any of these things. For a roof, siding, windows, doors, you don't need anything. I just assumed that that was like a statewide thing that didn't need it. You need a permit in Ottawa County if you new construction, if you're adding on a room, if you're adding things onto a house or building a house, you need building permits then, but nothing for what we did here. So it never crossed my mind to get a permit because I didn't know we needed them.
Because typically contractors that typically do work here know to get the permit in Columbus, the permit process for a building permit kicks it. So you got to get the COA because it's an historic district. So that's usually the catch
Yeah.
to prevent this from happening. So that explains.
For the commission, there were a few items on this application that you said might be appropriate if more documentation was provided on like the potential historic things like the configuration of the windows. Are there?
I think if
I think go ahead.
I would say, I think we could get to approval of windows if we had the photos from the sale and everything. But that's just one piece of everything.
Sure.
I think the holdups we're gonna have is the porch and door and soffit stuff.
Whole roof line,
I-
maybe siding
I would also say trim.
and trim.
Trim around the windows has changed a lot, more work trim.
So, and from the applicant's comments, probably you just need to go down the appeal route with this as the whole thing.
Okay.
Rather than us pulling it apart piece by piece and approving a little piece here and a little piece there, which is not gonna solve your problem.
Mhm.
So I would recommend that we vote on it, deny it, and that starts you down the road that you need to go.
Okay.
For the applicant, you do have to have the grounds for an appeal, and those would either be, if you're appealing to the commission, that would be on grounds of economic hardship, which are defined in city code, or for new information that you may find. If you're appealing to the larger body of the Board of Commission Appeals, you'd have to be making the appeals on the ground that the commission is being arbitrary and capricious in their decisions. So those, you'd have to have that as your basis for appeal for any of those things before you all continue with your vote. I just wanted to make sure that like
Thanks.
there are grounds for appeal that are required.
So would you like us to take a vote? How would you want us to proceed?
I'm guessing we need to take a vote then.
Mr. Chairman, on item COA 2500445 Purdy Avenue, and we do this in the affirmative. I move to approve the submittal as applied. The application as submitted, thank you.
Second.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor? All those against?
Aye.
Against stands, application denied. Read in the reasons for denial. Sorry, this is procedural stuff. We've got to cite
Mhm.
our code requirements. Take it to that. Staff report should have. So Columbus City Code CC 3016.11 standards for alteration. Item number 1, every reasonable effort should be made to use the property for its originally intended purpose or to provide a compatible requiring alteration, minimal alteration. Item 2, the distinguishing characteristics of the property shall not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of this sort of material or distinctive architectural feature shall be avoided whenever possible. Item 3, each property shall be recognized as a product of its own time. Alterations that have no historical basis and which seek to create an earlier appearance should be discouraged. Item 4, changes which take place over time, over the course of time, are evidence of the property's historic history and environment. These changes may require significance in their own right, and if so, the significance should be respected. Item 5, distinctive stylistic features and examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property shall be treated with sensitivity. Item 4, deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. In the event replacement is necessary, the new material shall match the material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. I won't read the rest of that piece. Item 9, contemporary design for alteration to a property shall not be discouraged when such alteration does not destroy significant historical, architectural, or cultural material, and its design is compatible with the size, scale, color, material, and character of the property, its environment, and surrounding properties. Item 10, whenever possible, a new addition or alteration shall be accomplished so that its future removal will not impair the essential form and integrity of the structure. Item 11, exterior cladding of a structure shall be consistent with the original materials used in the property. Item 12, in passing upon appropriateness, the commission shall consider, in addition to any other pertinent factor, the architectural characteristics typical of structures in the district or listed property, the historical and architectural value and significance, architectural style, general design, arrangement, texture, material, and color of the feature involved in relation to the architectural features of other contributing properties in the immediate neighborhood. Skip the site improvements. And then Durham Village guidelines for entrances and doors. Item 1 and 4. Durham Village guidelines for windows. Item 1. Guidelines for exterior fences and walls. Items 3, 4, and 5. And guidelines for site lighting, furniture, pools, fountains, gazebos. Item 1 and item 3. That should go. So staff will reach out to you with the certificate denial and help guide you to whatever avenue you want to take. Do you have any questions for us?
So like the siding that you wanted information on, do you still want that or doesn't apply?
It would be good to have that, to gather the information. So when you come back on appeal, we want to see all that information. That would be new information that we could look at.
Okay,
So if you find that it is a material that is appropriate, and we look at the documentation, we can say, yeah, this is appropriate. We can take it off a list of non-approved items.
okay.
Okay.
And the appeal process will start how?
Nick will help tell you what that takes.
You'll receive, we prepare the minutes first, which take 3 to 5 business days, and then we process the COAs and letters. And in this case, you're getting a certificate of denial. It will be sent to you via email and also via certified mail. When it's received via certified mail, you have 10 calendar days to file your appeal, and there'll be a letter and documentation on how to do so. And as well as you're welcome to email us the PBC email address, and we can explain this process in
Okay,
more detail. We can talk to on the phone as well.
okay, great.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks for coming in. Sorry you're in the situation.
thanks.
All right. Item number 4, COA 2500425, 220 East Casa Street. Once you're settled, if you raise your right hand.
Sorry, just gonna get my papers.
No worries. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Luke Phillips.
Thank you. Nick?
This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration. To remove all loose stucco to expose the underlying brick. The brick will then remain exposed and all joints will be tuck pointed with a type O mortar. And then to remove any dead vines from the low elevation as a part of that process. Staff analysis, the commissioners at the business meeting noted the applicant should come prepared to discuss if it was appropriate to re-stucco the building or not with the stucco removal. Documentation that staff has now provided from the Ohio Historic Inventory shows the structure was painted and stuccoed in 1975 when that inventory report was filed, meaning the stucco can be considered a historic building material for this property. The German Village Guidelines recommend that stuccoed buildings should remain stuccoed, since the masonry underneath was often chipped and scarred to make the stucco adhere. And that's masonry, page 39 of the German Village Guidelines. Additionally, the National Park Service Preservation Brief 22 also recommends that historic stucco, even if applied decades after the building's original construction, should be retained and repaired, as it may have required its own significance over time. With the recommendations from the German Village Guidelines and the National Park Service, HPO staff would not support the full-scale removal of stucco from the structure at 220 East Office Street, as the stucco is old enough based on city code and the National Park Service standard to be considered a historic treatment, and removal may further damage the historic masonry. Therefore, the staff recommends the commission continue the application to allow time for the applicant to provide documentation on the age of the stucco, showing that it is either not historic, or to pursue repair of the stucco coating. The basis for the staff recommendation is German Village Guidelines on Masonry 10, and the standards for alteration 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11.
Anything else to add?
Yeah, I think there's a slight, just misunderstanding with the wording. We're not removing all the stucco or anything like that. It's just basically the areas where those bricks are exposed, just basically doing a small tap test around those areas, just to make sure we're not about to repair around something that's gonna fall off a week after we're done. So all the stucco that's there should remain on the building, except the loose edges around the masonry. And then we would just repair the masonry as is. Because Schmitz really likes the look of the exposed brick. It's been that way for a while. And so we were just going to tuck point and make sure water's not getting in behind the facade to damage that stucco further. So basically, we're just trying to preserve as it looks right now.
All right. Questions, comments to the commission?
So. It's a nice romantic look, I'll put it that way. But it's not appropriate for the village. And the stucco falling off kind of starts to fall into demolition by neglect.
Okay.
And this was entirely coated with stucco, and I'm probably gonna tell you that I think it probably should get re-stuccoed.
Okay. It is an interesting layer of stucco in the sense where it's really just a small thorough coat top coat.
Yeah,
It's really not a full base coat. So really what it's gonna
Textured paint.
yeah, basically like HB Master Protect or something like that. So because you can see the brick lines.
yeah.
So we're talking about stucco, but it's really, is it more of like a thorough coat? Like we repair that, we keep this same plan and we,
Even that is obviously they did it for a reason.
yeah,
We wouldn't go to the expense of doing something like that, other than the masonry probably is soft and taking on moisture, and that's why they did this.
yeah, standard old commons.
Sandblast.
Sandblast
Yeah,
one time
yeah.
and then put this
But
up.
anyways, needs to be fixed.
Do you want the stucco back on?
That's my opinion.
Okay, and we can spot repair the stucco. I mean, we don't need to do.
Yeah, I mean, whatever
Full
the
100%.
coating is,
Okay,
that needs to be,
Repair with something
Repair.
that matches.
yeah, repaired.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sika just bought Master Protect, so now you can get a million different colors made up. So we could submit. So I still these repairs, because the masonry does have a lot of holes in it. So I think our initial repair plan should still happen. And then,
Absolutely.
so basically we just need to add a coating to this. Okay. Do I have to repeat the same process, or is there a way we
You
can,
make your application right now.
I can amend it?
Yeah, if you can say, hey, I want to amend it by, we will complete the repair of the masonry with the appropriate matching coating.
Top coat,
In the missing areas, thank you. All
Okay.
missing areas.
got it.
We want that product data to go to Nick for
Staff.
record.
Got it. Do you need me to send that right now, or can we send that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Before the COA comes in, we probably want to get,
when's that?
So if that is approved as you're talking about now, you would get a letter, an email, not a letter, but like a letter sent via email. That just outlines that you need to submit that and you submit it. And once the staff has reviewed it, typically 3 to 5 business days, we issue the COA.
Got
If
it.
you're hearing this conversation now and you get to work tomorrow and you want to go ahead and send it, you're welcome to, and that just, we don't have to issue the letter then, we can just go straight to the COA.
Got it. Yeah, I'm debating on, it's either Master Protect, like the thorough coat, or it's something similar. Do you guys approve acrylic top coats, like the Parex?
Per se, no. But we don't, neither one way or the other.
Okay,
All these new high-tech products now, so as
Oh.
long as it's breathable,
Yep.
it doesn't trap moisture in the brick and make everything more.
yeah, the Parex is what, it's basically like they use it a lot on the EFIS top coats, but it's all breathable and lets
we
moisture
Some
out.
of us have more experience with this stuff than others.
Sorry, I'm getting,
But-
getting into the weeds, but,
You have to service your customer with the
Yes.
appropriate
Yes.
product.
okay, so
That's
can
what
I,
we're gonna kind of rely on that.
and we absolutely will. I was just asking, do I need to have the product? If I just say the appropriate top coat, we're good to go. We'll
I
do the,
think we want to know exactly what it is.
so we would, if we approve this,
Okay.
we would vote to approve. It'd be contingent upon Nick receiving that material.
Got
So
it.
You've got the functional approval.
Okay.
It's just you won't get the letter and you can't proceed with the work until you identify what that material is.
Absolutely, and we'll get all that over to you and get all that approved, so I just didn't wanna have to come back in a month.
If the patch is made, then what happens? Because it's not gonna match in color. Are you, is it
Gonna
will
be
be
painted?
painted or?
Well, that'll be an interesting question. I mean, nowadays, like I said, we can send in a chip of that if we're getting the thorough coat made up, and they'll get very, very close. And then, we're trying to match 50-year sun faded color, so we might need to let the color fade a little bit, but we'll be very close. We won't put something on that stands out like a sore thumb.
And then it's up to the owner to maintain like it.
Okay.
I have 2 more comments, nothing problematic. Removal of dead vines from north elevation. Make sure we're doing it sensitively, not just ripping vines out, as you know. that
Yep.
Cause more damage.
Yep.
It did look like they are all dead, but if they're not dead, kill them first, let them die, and then pull it off so we're not ripping stuff out.
Absolutely.
In the type O mortar, I think typically we ask for type N, but O is better. It's a less PSI.
Yes, you're looking for like the less,
Yeah, just
Softer.
Yeah.
L, it's 350 PSI type O, which to me, I believe is appropriate.
I think I have type in listed here. Are you saying you want to drop down a type O or?
Our agenda says type O.
what we can do is, base it on the National Park Service's mortar chart. And to be whichever if it says type N is appropriate for historic brick, I don't have the chart memorized, I apologize, but.
Yeah.
And if it says type O is the only appropriate option for historic brick, then that could be the option of that.
I was gonna recommend, I recommend O, just myself, just knowing that we already have a potential problem with soft brick. More
Yeah.
so than other brick that we see. So as gentle as we can be with material going in, I think it's better long-term for the applicant.
Yeah, either one's fine with us. I mean, we can use the spec mix type O or we can use, so it's either one works for us. We've been doing some crush tests on old
Yeah.
old commons and they've been coming out around 1200 PSI.
Yeah.
And the type N sets up around, 800 PSI. So we should be good either way, but we're not picky about mortar.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, on COA 2500423 220 East Cotha Street, I move to approve the application as amended with a appropriate mortar based on the National Historic Preservation Guidelines, whether that's N or O, and that the masonry is going to be repaired, and that a appropriate coating to match the existing finish will be provided on all of the existing exposed brick.
With that data information going to staff.
Thank you.
Product selection, yeah.
Got it. So if we send it tomorrow, we should be good.
Product submission to staff.
You'll have to wait for the COA to be issued, which typically takes about a week after the hearing.
Oh, okay, so wait for that and then submit it.
No, you
No,
can
go ahead.
submit
Yeah.
material dated now.
Got it.
For both the coating and for the mortar.
Got it. Will do.
Just can't start work until the COA.
Yeah, it's fine. We won't.
Next week, you'll get the COA if you get those materials tomorrow.
Sounds great.
Second.
Got a second? Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Okay.
Yes, ayes have it, the motion passes.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
All right, moving ahead to item number 5, COA 2500447, 239 Lansing Street. Applicant here for 239 Lansing. All right, hearing none. I'll have to come back to, we'll go to item 6, COA 2500375, which is 313 East Frankfurt.
It's got a sample here.
Choice. Once you're both settled, if you raise your right hands, one each. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth.
Yes,
Your name?
Jennifer Matz.
Thank you.
Bakit Dave.
Thank you. Rich?
This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration to remove all of the damaged asbestos siding from the house, to replace with a GAF Purity Way wavy fiber cement siding to closely resemble the asbestos siding for the submitted documentation, and then painting the new siding the color Regatta for Sherwin-Williams 6517 to match the existing home color. The staff analysis is at the business meeting. The commissioners requested the applicant bring a physical sample of the siding to the hearing. And we note from the previous review, the reciting of this property has previously been considered by the commission at the September 2024 GBC hearing, where the application was continued. At that time, the application was proposed installing a sand composite siding over the existing asbestos siding. And the commission expressed concern of the proposed material at that time and how the dimensions of trim and trim details would be impacted with the additional layer of siding. They did not consider full removal of the existing siding at that hearing. HPO staff do note that the GIF fiber cement siding is often used for replacement pieces for asbestos siding, as it mimics the appearance of the siding. But HPO staff only approved that material as a replacement for minor repairs, where a few pieces need replaced on overall asbestos siding of structures. The siding at this property seems to be mostly in good condition, and we would recommend the commission seek additional information as to why repair and minor replacement is not proposed at this time at this property. Some historical information on the siding material. It was a popular siding choice during the mid-20th century and into the late 1970s, meaning the siding of this property is very likely over 40 years of age and can be considered historically and architecturally significant for the property. The siding itself with the material only poses a health risk when damaged or disturbed, and damaged pieces can be removed and appropriately replaced with other materials as needed. Staff recommendation is to continue the application to allow time for the applicant to provide documentation or additional reason that the existing siding cannot be repaired. The basis for that staff recommendation is standards for alteration 1 through 12, the German Village Guidelines on Siding 1 through 7, and then the German Village Design Guidelines on Artificial Siding on page 174, and the 2005 amendments for specifications for artificial siding.
Before I throw it over to you, for clarification, are you proposing to replace all the siding, or are you proposing to replace the broken pieces?
Remove all of the asbestos siding and install this, because this is similar, but not exact.
Okay.
The weight pattern and the finish is not identical.
Okay. All right, so the floor is yours. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's, so I have a piece.
Sure, we'll take that.
So why the decision to replace all of them?
A garbage truck ran into the corner and damaged it.
Well, we can't replace it. There is no exact same material that can be used to repair it.
Just a pad?
This is the closest,
Okay,
but
It is different at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
texture is a little different.
okay. I'm just asking.
Yeah, we'll take this sample. So good, man. Bless you, buddy. Okay, any questions, comments from the commission?
Any desire to expose the original wood siding?
I'll let you answer that.
Well, we have a reason to believe that they went with asbestos over it because it did have a lot of issues. And if you look at that corner, restoration of that may not be possible, or
The concern is that it's.
this is the issue that we cannot assess the amount of work that would need to be done, and then once we do the tear off, the homeowner may not be in the position to actually do anything. I mean, I did consider myself, if this doesn't work, to install similar wood beveled siding. I mean, similar to what was there, but I don't know, again, I'm not sure if you like that solution or not.
I'll make a statement.
Okay.
If I want to sequence this. If a property here was originally wood siding, to go back with wood siding is typically always an appropriate approach.
Okay.
That said, there's also a material in the house of this wavy siding, which is also now historic material. So that's a second option, is to have that type of siding. I think for the commission, the question is, do we believe that this siding material is an appropriate siding, knowing that a similar siding style was historically appropriate on this house? Different product, but stylistically. If the commission gets to a point of saying yes, proceed forward. And we'll put on the table though, if in order to put this on, you gotta take all of it off. One option is if you had approval to do wood, you could take it all off and see what the condition is, and you might be able to, might not be as bad as it looks. And you can just repair what's there, good for the client. If it's bad, you can replace it with wood. Or we can go with the new product. So I think there's a couple different avenues that could happen. But I think the repairing and keeping what's there underneath it all is contingent upon pulling what is there off. So to me, it's, can you get the applicant, get the client an approval solution they're good with, which would allow you to take that first step to pull everything off. Then you take a breath and evaluate, do you want to continue down the path, or do you want to restore what's there, or go back with wood, or use this product? That makes sense?
It does. I'm concerned about the timing.
Sure.
So
Understood.
the moment we remove it, obviously
Sorry, the
it's
clock
not,
starts ticking.
it's not gonna look great.
Sure.
And we would need to have a decision made right away.
Sure.
And then this might be also a situation, if it's a specific wood siding, we're gonna have it available.
Sure.
And how long it would take.
Understood.
Even this, I don't have it available, it has to be a special order.
Yeah.
So this is where, I mean, it would even make more sense for us to push for the wood siding, just so we know ahead of time, this is the end goal. But my question is, say we discover it's bad, I mean, can we prepare that, assume that it's all bad and just replicate the same thing?
I think the question for the commission would you be looking to leave the original siding that's there and then side over it with wood, if you went the wood route?
I would prefer, once we remove the asbestos, and there is a little bit of underlying insulation there, it would give us enough space so we don't have to mess with the trim. All the trim would stay original around the windows, all the accents and stuff. So we wouldn't touch any of that, none of the soffits, none of the rails, gables. Just over that old wood, we would go with new wood.
Yeah.
And then just the question, I mean, we tried to investigate ourselves the original colors. Even that blue siding wasn't blue.
Mhm.
It did change to blue some years ago. We saw some grayish color. And looking at beige, yeah, and looking at that wood, it's hard to tell what was the original color. So we're at this point, we're trying to see, is there one target where we can just go and prepare?
Yeah.
So I've got to ask,
Mhm.
this is not matching, the wavy edge does not exactly match what's there. Right?
It does not match exactly. That's
But
correct.
if you're doing a small patch in a back corner, is this significantly different that it's gonna screen that it's inappropriate? I don't think so.
The texture is
Well,
significantly
Even the
different.
texture with a coat of paint on.
Yeah, well, texture, the size and the wave pattern. The
Are all significantly different? So you,
well, this is where I can't say. sig- You see, it is smaller, so it would be overlapping.
what is the overlap on this stuff?
Uh, well, I don't remember exactly what the overlap is, but this is smaller.
This doesn't have enough exposed space.
Yes.
Okay, that's, yeah,
Scaling it, it won't fit underneath.
that's where it's going.
And also, from a installation point of view, one of those pictures, you can see there is a metal corner, outside corner that got damaged. So now we have two adjacent elevations, and that complicates the entire repair. To replace that damaged metal, we still have to take it apart. At that point, it's already, yeah, it's
Okay, all right, no, that's good information.
So I think for the commission, are we amenable to this product? I think it's the starting point.
I am, yes.
I, you know,
So,
Oh, sorry.
is there a question?
I was gonna let you.
Okay. So it sounds like you got the votes to get this product on. So take what's off, put this on, call it a day.
okay.
If you want to do wood, I don't think you'll have any pushback from the commission to do wood, either repair what's there or wood over it. So just put down the table for them.
I don't think that matters to you, but I mean, I personally would prefer wood. This is where we just need to address the costs.
Yeah.
And
the options. So
yeah, well, and have the homeowner to okay that as well.
But, okay, yes and no, okay, I mean,
Yeah.
if he replaces what's there with this, he hasn't changed the look. Takes this stuff off, takes the boarding buttons, the board off underneath, comes back with another clapboard on top of the existing clapboard, because that's the only thing that's gonna work. Is he still gonna have all the trims and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the right word is.
The exposure of the trim.
But the thickness
Yeah,
of
that's
the-
proud, thank you. That's still proud of the siding appropriately. And if not, then you gotta fix that. So that's another,
So I think the options you have on the table, we can vote and approve this.
Mhm.
If you want to try to go for wood, we can continue the application. We've already got the buying of this material. We can continue it the next month, allows you to go back to the client and propose the wood piece. You'd have to come back next month with the information to show that all the proudness and the details and the profiles, everything work. We
Okay,
can vote on it then, and then you have one agreed upon material and then the wood option we could look at and make a final call on, hey, let's be.
okay.
So if you need the approval now to move forward, we can approve this now and move forward.
Let's, I will take advantage of that option. Let's see in the. I like the homeowner originally had a different plan. So this came up as close to the solution. So now we have the solution.
Sure.
And I just want to see if there is additional option. And we will also investigate and measure the, how much more, we have. Yeah, that's,
You want to measure.
yeah, so I would also have some extra documentation as far as, what's the thickness overall with the insulation and existing
Yeah.
asbestos.
So would you like us to continue?
Yes,
Okay. And when you continue, you get an extra week to get the information for the next, right?
Yes, you would have until, not tomorrow, but the week after on Thursday to submit your additional like documentation, measurements, things like that, so.
okay. And just one more question. If that wood becomes an option, what about the color? Is it something?
You can propose your color, give it to staff. We typically don't really get into the weeds on the colors, as long as it's not some crazy hot pink, blue, neon colors.
Unless you can prove the house was hot pink at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the client wants to match a historic color,
The client is interested to maintain the historic look.
Yeah.
So is there any colors that are preferred?
I would say if you are able to identify colors off materials that are exposed, that's historic.
Okay,
The other option
We did
is,
submit some color samples.
yeah, if Sherwin-Williams and their competitors have their historic color lines, they can tell you kind of what colors were typical
There's lots of options.
back then.
okay,
Cool.
all right.
It was typically a pretty colorful neighborhood back in the day.
Mr. Chairman, on item COA 2500375, 313 East Frankfurt Street, I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Motion passes. Continued.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
We get an applicant here for 239 Lansing Street. All right. We'll move ahead to item 7 was withdrawn. Item 8, COA 2500470, 869 South 3rd Street. Once you're settled, if you raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and the truth.
I do.
Your name?
Jeffrey Biesenberger.
Thank you very much. Nick?
This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration, to remove and replace the rotted first-story French door on the rear addition to match the existing style with a Marvin Ultimate slider per the submitted documentation, and to remove the trio windows in the second-story rear addition and replace a Marvin Ultimate picture window per the submitted documentation. At the June business meeting, the commission had no request for additional information. The addition where the door and window are located was approved for construction in 1987. And the drawings are included in the materials package. The window was originally approved to be 2 double hung windows, and there are no COAs approving the 3-window configuration. So based on kind of just German village history, it's likely the window configuration was installed during the time of construction to be variant without the commission's review on that, back in 1987. The commission has approved the change from outswing doors to sliding doors on non-historic additions before. So HPO staff have identified no issues with this change as long as the new door is sized to fit the existing opening. For the proposed window alteration on the non-historic addition, HPO staff would just recommend the commission determine if the picture window would be appropriate for this addition, given that it's a non-historic addition. Recommendation is staff does recommend approval of any verifications to be submitted to staff. Prior to the issuance of the certificate, on the assumption that the picture window is deemed to be appropriate on the addition. The basis for staff recommendation is City Code 31611, standards for alteration 1 through 3, 9, 10, and 12, the German Village Guidelines for Windows 2 and 6, and the German Village Guidelines 2005 amendment for windows.
Anything else to add?
No.
Questions, comments from the commission? I have one question. Do we know if the framing for the window opening can support a single pane window? Or is the current dividers between the 3 providing any structural support there?
I'm not certain what's underneath it, no.
Is that just one single unit up there?
Yes, there are three separate opening gate, it's casement window with three separate openings today. But we don't open them, so it would seem to be, a clearer view without them, and they didn't seem installed. That's why we thought it would be less expensive.
My only concern is putting one picture window and get a support tire span with the framing that's there.
I did ask APCO about that, and they said it would be fine. I was concerned about wind load versus,
Yeah.
and they said that there was no problem at that dimension.
Is this the rear elevation?
That's the rear.
Is it visible from any public ways?
No,
Like the alley behind, is it blocked by garage, trees?
I back to other people's backyards. There's no alleyway behind them. And I don't think you can see it from City Park, which would be the street running behind.
Motion. Yeah, take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, item COA 250047089, 869 South 3rd Street, I move to approve as submitted.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Aye. In favors have it, motion passes. Thank you much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
All right, moving on to item number 9, COA 2500472-584 South 6th Street. Let the record show Commissioner McCoy is stepping off the dais bench.
Yeah.
She is the applicant. Dais or bench, whatever.
Not elevated, so not a.
Rear quasi-judicial body.
There we go.
What?
A quasi-judicial body, judicial body. I don't say that 5 times, sorry. No, I can't even say it.
I would ask you to raise your right hand, but we raise your left hand.
Thank you.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Karen McCoy.
Thank you. Let the record show the applicant raised left hand because the right hand's listening.
For sure. The request, this is a request for action for landscaping to remove a honey locust tree in the rear yard adjacent to the north property line per the submitted documentation. And then to plant 2 replacement trees in the front yard per the submitted documentation. Replacement trees will be the columnar form of the Zelkova, Form B, maple, or equivalent tree. Staff analysis is commissioned at this meeting had no comments regarding the application, and the applicant has submitted an arborist report stating the tree poses a risk to health and safety. Or that's a simplified statement, but you all have the arborist report in front of you. And the applicant has proposed suitable replacement trees. The staff recommendation is approval with any clarifications to be voted to staff. And the basis for staff recommendation is 31613 standards for site improvements A.
Anything else to add?
I'm typically the last person that ever wants to take down a tree. I knew when I moved into the house nearly 20 years ago that wasn't exactly the right tree to be there, but it was much smaller. And so I thought I'm going to give it as much time as I can. And I have. At this point, the tree, because of the Siberian elm totally enshrouding it, has grown at an angle to get the sun to the south. So consequently, it just has a couple of branches that cover my yard and are now into the neighbor's property to the south. We investigated whether the roots could be cut back, but because of the way the tree's growing, all the structural roots there's a couple branches that go over my roof too. And so the structural roots are basically tracing, where the large limbs are. So that's not an option. So really the only option would be to take it down. I know typically we want a plan, and I am going to do a plan for the backyard. I couldn't draw it up at this particular time, but at this point in time, to take the tree down requires access to the neighbor's property. So my neighbor to the south, who would like to have the tree gone, is offering his driveway so that they can put a mini lift up to get to it. the homeowner to the north who owns a Siberian elm also needs to trim that one. So the idea was if all of this can be done at one time, it's more efficient and obviously more cost effective for all the property owners.
So you're
So
proposing 3 different trees in the front.
I'm proposing 2 of the same. I'm proposing alternates, I just
Yeah.
depending on,
So which is the better one?
well, my preference is Zelkova. I've used Zelkova many times in urban situations. And it's the closest, I would say, I mean, they are shade trees, but I could keep it trimmed to the point that it would work. This property had a large maple at one time in the front yard, which kind of contributed to the street tree presence. And it died of verticillium wilt. And verticillium wilt's a fungus that stays in the soil. At this point, it should all be gone, but the Zelkova is resistant to it. So
I'm just saying let's name one and make that part of the application.
that it's, yeah, I would agree to.
Okay. So be it.
We'll say that, based on the arborist report of the structural roots and the damage to foundations and storm drains and sanitary and whatnot, I think it's reasonable that this tree has outlived its useful life in this location.
Just like to point out it was cheaper to cut it down years ago.
Oh, it would have been.
I'm kidding. You really am.
Think of the streetscape, what it could have been now.
Yeah. That's true. If I had,
Mr. Chairman, on COA 2500472, 584 South Sixth Street, I move to approve as submitted. Second.
Any questions on the motion? We'll make the comment that there is a tree being replaced in the front, 2 trees in the front to make up for this loss in the rear.
And will be Soco.
Zelkovas.
Tacoma.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find it forever. All right, any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on ahead to item number 10, COA 2500489, 49 Stewart Avenue. Let the record show Commissioner McCoy is back on the table. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and the truth.
I do.
And your name?
Julie Bushal Sharma.
Thank you.
This is a request for action for an exterior building alteration to remove 13 historic windows due to levels of lead and to replace windows with the Marvin Ultimate windows. At the business meeting, the commissioners requested any lead reports or documentation. HBO staff did complete a site visit on May 14th and observed that all windows appear to be in very good condition, in part due to existing storm windows. Maintenance appears to have been completed on the windows, as all the windows have newer sash boards. A few of the windows have wavy glass, indicating that they are original, and the second-story windows in the east room have a different, less detailed profile than the remainder of the windows, which leads staff to believe they may be historic replacement windows, but not but historic replacement windows. From the file, HBO staff can confirm the following. The west side dormer windows were replaced in 2002 with COA 02-9-33. And the storm windows were approved for replacement in July of 2013, with COA 13-8-8, which would be GE number. For the recommendation, staff does recommend the commission continue the application to allow time for the applicant to pursue repair and lead remediation or abatement for the windows. The basis for that recommendation is City Code 31611, standards for alteration 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12. The German Village Guidelines for Windows 1, 2, and 4, and the German Village Guidelines 2005 amendments for Windows on page 177. For the commission, the HBO staff that conducted the site visit are not present at the hearing because they were covering for me when I was out. So
Sure.
I can answer questions based on their notes, but I did not see the windows in person.
Anything else to add?
Yeah, I was talking to Nick via email and I've been getting some quotes just in case if it's approved and would likely now go with the Pella aluminum clad wood exterior. wood interior over the Marvin aluminum clad exterior wood interior.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Did we get a lead report?
There's no lead report, and I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, due to concerns of like, lead reports are coming from like medical records, so the not wanting to share medical records with the public kind of things.
So I have the report from the Columbus Public Health Department, but since it would be made public, did not want to include that in file, but I have on my phone if via email, I could send it to you all, if that's helpful, if it wouldn't be public.
So why is that an issue that we're just asking for verification that the paint has a significant amount of lead that it's.
Oh, just for my daughter's sake, like in her future that,
So
people don't.
saying that your daughter's been tested with high levels of lead and these windows are contributing to it?
Yes, so in October, my daughter was 9 months old. And she, at 9 months, they take a routine blood lead level test. She tested above the threshold that doctors look for, and this automatically prompts a case with the Columbus Public Health Department. So we were assigned a caseworker, Kelly Gregory, if you need her contact information. She came out for some site visits and tested multiple things in our house that we're using daily, including the windows. Ultimately determined, she used like a lead detection gun as well as visual, like the crocodiling of lead. So just ultimately determined it was most likely caused from the windows as well as some dishware as well. And that is in the report. I mean, the report is more on like her case than
Yeah.
the outcome of everything she tested, but she does mention the windows in there.
Typically with lead in properties, it's, EPA states that if it's encased with new paint, typically it's not an issue. It's when the lead paint's friable, breaking apart, chipping, cracking, that's what leads to a lot of lead stuff. Our stance would be, are you proposed to replace just the window unit? What about all the trim and everything else that would have lead?
Oh,
paint?
not the trim at all. So she assumes that what happened is it was sanded at some point, the lead, which is why then we had to go through with HEPA vac and vacuum everything in the house. So yeah, all the trim, like interior and everything, that would all stay the same. It would just be the.
So
itself.
with the old wood windows, those sashes can come out. Have you investigated having a company come pull the sashes out, take them off site, strip, clean?
Yes,
Not
yeah, so we
break it.
have received quotes for that as well. Unfortunately, I know you can't look at economic reasons right now. They are a lot more expensive and even more expensive to take them completely off-site because my daughter plays outside all the time. I personally would feel uncomfortable, even them stripping them outside.
So my stance is they're in good condition. So if we look at this from a historic perspective, I have a hard time just on the concept of replacing historic windows with new windows. I can't approve it from that aspect. The consideration of extenuating circumstances, just like financial hardship, is heard upon appeal.
Okay.
We can take this into account. So I think there's a viable option to get the lead contaminated fabric, the window sashes and whatnot, off-site to another facility to be stripped and cleaned and then repainted and reinstalled. I think that's a viable alternative. Now, that may be a financial issue, but again, that's on appeal as well.
Okay.
So I would think that the rest of the commission can vote how they vote. I believe that if it was denied at appeal, we want to have those options explored. If it's financial, we want to see what the financial hardship is. If it's extenuating circumstances, we want to see that. So that's where I'm at with it. I definitely feel for the situation. I do 100%. It's just we are tasked with the historic fabric of the neighborhood, and that's our primary focus as a commission.
I'm also concerned that even if you got all the sashes replaced, all the wood trim around it still has lead paint on it, right?
So, yeah, in the gun that she tested, like in the molding around, she never tested positive there and it wasn't disturbed at all, but she could tell, you know, in the window, like in the middle between the panes, it was disturbed at some point, which was the cause. And then, so all of them, she tested visually or with a gun, tested positive for lead, like in between the panes, but then on two of the windows, it also has directly in the interior facing portion, lead paint, which is starting to crocodile, I
Can you
guess.
flip back up pictures? So with how these windows operate, find a picture that shows kind of the rubbing surfaces of the window, for lack of better terms. Like the rail. So,
That one made,
yeah, so basically, where the two sashes rub together, that's gonna wear away any kind of protective coating, which looks goes in lead paint. And then where the window is rubbing against this trim here up and down, that's gonna wear. And anything inside that gap, that pocket around, is probably gonna be worn down as well. So even if these get replaced, that's the question, is that inside track that gets replaced as part of the window itself, or is that staying in the window sitting inside of it?
No insert, yeah.
Yeah, and this insert window, it wouldn't mitigate any paint that's back there. So that's where a lead mitigation plan would be what I'd ask for, not about levels and people, but if we're truly gonna look at this from a need to get the lead out, what is the plan from the contractor of how they intend to do it?
Okay.
Is it gonna fall short? Do it as come in, but it's not gonna solve the problem.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So they might also disturb the trim while they're doing this.
So, and sorry, I don't know all the terms, but the trim, you just mean the molding around.
Yeah.
So, so that, yeah, they seem, at least for the people I got multiple quotes, that it wouldn't be disturbed, but they also said it looked like a lot of it had been replaced over time too.
Because I was looking at that in the photos and the trim style, if we go to the top. All that detailing, that's usually what's gone when that trim gets replaced. All that,
Oh, yeah, yeah, we're not hoping to, we love the trim, just.
no, I'm just saying that typically if that would have all been covered in lead paint back up until 78. And then it'd be coated with paint. Now, whether somebody sanded it down and then into bare wood and then painted it in that way, the lead's gone. But if we're pulling these windows out, that all of that trim work on the inside and or outside is going to be disturbed from the work. And so if there is, when they test for lead, if it's fully encased in layers of new paint, it wouldn't show up unless they do some kind of destructive testing, a scratch test or something, which I doubt they did. I'm sure it's all the surface testing.
Yeah, well, she did take a few chips as well, which tested positive, but they were from several windows, of like the interior, not any of the molding around.
Yeah, if it's an XRF type lead gun, it can detect little layers.
Through it?
all the way.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and then also, yeah, everyone I've gotten the quotes through are certified through the public health department, so, but if I need to appeal, I can give, you know, the exact specifications of how they would
Sure.
not disturb even the molding part.
So would you want to keep opening these windows?
Yeah, I'm from Columbus. We just moved back from New York City a year ago. And I love my childhood with my windows open and
So they do
like the fresh
something
air.
with the Interior jam piece that's gonna be rubbing. The old paint on the jam will be rubbed by the new sashes. So that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm
right?
getting
That paint has to be dealt with somehow.
Yeah, so I can try to get more specifics from, since they're all certified for lead abatement, on how they said basically they're going to seal everything off on the interior, but I can try to get even more specifics there.
I would we have to think contractor perspective, pulling the sashes out, using it not you doing this, but a contractor doing it, pulling the sashes out, using infrared gun, and stripping the paint off down to bare wood, resealing, repainting, and reinstalling has to be more cost effective than taking everything out, manufacturing new windows, and putting new windows in place.
That's what we're being told right now.
So I received the quotes, and at least right now, it's more expensive to,
But your
Strip
quote
them.
is just for sashes, not entire new windows.
um,
Because entire new windows will require removing all the trim.
I think that's gonna come out on appeal if we
Okay.
go to the.
so, yeah, I'm not removing any of the molding.
With the trim, so they're just replacing the sashes.
Um,
Where they do
let me,
Window insert.
I believe it would be a window insert.
Okay, so that means your glass will get smaller, you won't have this nice view.
It would be single pane.
Well, I'm just saying the physical with the new frame takes up space, so your glass just gets smaller. You just have a smaller window within an existing window frame. Because I had this done at my house and I didn't want my windows smaller. They said the only way to do it is to remove everything, but in home there.
Okay.
For the commission, we have the drawings pulled up and it does look like there is jam liners proposed for the current replacements that are being proposed. So yes, just provide those photos to show you exactly what you've already described.
But it is a whole new window insert. Smaller, yeah.
Okay.
So, for the commission, obviously, financial and hardship is not in the cards in the first vote. So, I'm assuming you don't want us to continue the application. I'm assuming you want us to take a vote. Is that a correct statement?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we vote and it doesn't pass, if it gets denied, it opens up for appeal. I think you were here before to hear the previous conversation about an appeal to the previous applicant. Same thing, you can come back to us on appeal with the information for hardship, financial hardship, that kind of stuff. Or the other avenues. Yeah.
I was gonna add, with the appeals on an economic hardship, they're outlined in the city code rule 1.6 on those. And documentation for grounds of economic hardship is financial records, which are kept from public view, but are provided to the commission. And they are required for economic hardship appeals. And those specific records are outlined in the.
Just to, before we move ahead, no matter how we vote, just to. Right now, we're being told reworking existing sashes, taking them out, reworking them, said it's more cost effective than installing what your window inserts.
Oh, no, the opposite, that it's more cost effective to.
What I'm telling you is we're hearing the opposite of what you're saying. I'm not saying I'm disagreeing.
Oh,
We're hearing the opposite.
okay.
And there are at least 2 projects in the village, one's on Mohawk, where
Mhm.
they're doing that right now. You might want to check with those owners and talk to who is doing that work.
Okay, do you know if they're with like a lead abatement certified? I know there's only like.
I'm
just
gonna guess they're
10.
gonna have to be, if they're stripping the windows down,
Okay,
they've gotta be a lead abatement thing, because you just can't strip that without proper thing. There are 2 houses I know right now that the windows are out of them, and they're being redone and rebuilt, so
In the,
with that.
in the past,
okay, yeah, and I would if I have to go through this again, I might show the differential between like off-site, having them completely haul off-site
Yeah, these
versus
are all offside.
stripping on, okay, that's
They've
good.
taken them out, the windows are boarded up,
Mhm.
And they're off-site, and they're coming back.
Okay.
in the past, your statement about the new windows being cheaper was true, but we're finding now with the price of labor and the price of materials consistently rising.
Yeah.
And Columbus, trade schools have done a really good job of teaching the skill set for window repair.
Mhm.
There's a lot more people out there doing this now than there have been in decades. So I think that inflection curve of cost is starting to switch.
Okay,
But-
yeah, and then, yeah, I guess energy efficiency though included. I mean, it'd take forever to get your money back on energy savings, I'm sure, but
A good storm window on a good restored, maintained, single pane window gets you just about as energy efficient as a double pane,
Yeah.
new window. but
It's the weather stripping is the key.
It's an actual layer. There's existing storms.
yeah, they just told you. So,
All right. So,
we'll play with one.
all our hints.
Would you like us to take the vote now? Or-
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, item COA 2500489, 49 Stewart Avenue, I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion? All those in favor? Those against? Aye. Against has it, motion is denied. Reasons for denial, we just gotta go through the motion, the pieces here. Report. Item number 9.
I'm
10. Reasons for denial, city code 316.11, standards for alteration, item 1. I'm just gonna read out the numbers as opposed to reading the whole thing. Items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then German Village guidelines, specifically on windows, starting at page 62, item number 1, 2, and 4. And then also German Village guidelines 2005 amendments on windows, page 177. Good, Nick?
Yes.
Great. HPO will get in contact with you about next steps. Any questions you have for us?
So I know you said for health reasons, I know you said economic would not be public. Would health documents be public in the appeal process?
If you're going for additional information, it would typically be rehearing by the commission, and so I could talk to the historic preservation officer and see a pathway to redact or maintain offline certain records.
For sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on, item number 11, COA 2500480, 575 South Grant. I need to recuse myself from this one, so Commissioner Thiel, chair is yours.
great.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Would you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name, please.
Nicholas Kalitzos on behalf of Fiesel Roofing applicant.
Great.
This is a request for action for an exterior building installation. Retain the Boral lap siding, window trim, and door trim as installed. The siding was installed flush to appear with a flat finish, and to retain the K-style OG and half-ground gutters installed on the house per submitted documentation. Staff analysis, the June business meeting, the commission requested pictures of the house before the work was completed, which are in your materials packets. The applicant provided some photos, as well as HBO staff added the June 2024 pre-work photos of the materials package. And those are starting on page 11, which might have been pushed back when I added more materials. So I do apologize, that page number might not be accurate. Staff recommendation, staff does recommend approval with any clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to the issuance of a certificate with the following conditions, and the condition being that the appropriate gutters are installed on the property, as the gutter types were specifically called out in the COA and included in the motion at the July 2024 GBC hearing. Noting, should have clarified, the German Village Commission did approve work to this property in July of 2024 for the reciting. The basis for the staff recommendation is City Code 31611, standards for alteration 1 through 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12. The German Village guidelines for citing, recommendation 1, and the German Village guidelines, page 78, drawings for trim details.
Anything to add?
Just for clarification on the staff recommendation, which we of course would request that the staff recommendation be affirmed in this matter. But concerning the gutter types, for clarification, the gutter types that were installed, there was previously K-style gutters on, I believe, the rear portion of the residence previously installed. Those were replaced with the quarter round gutter styles, which are more expensive.
Quarter under half round.
half round, apologize. Half round gutter styles, which more expensive, they're more aesthetically pleasing for a more traditional style. There was some issues, I believe, during the install where the structural integrity of how the K styles were installed, they essentially just fell out as soon as they started moving them out. So the homeowner, as well as Feasible Roofing, figured the half round would be more aesthetically pleasing and to conform with the entire nature of the house. I believe the entire majority of the front of the residence is half round. So I think the rear portion would also be half round, which for clarification, I believe in the original certificate of appropriateness, it was originally approved for just the half round gutters to be installed, which was then amended based upon the K-style and half round being used previously. The homeowner wanted to continue with what was previously used, but unfortunately during the replacement and everything, there were some issues and half round was installed, which was previously approved.
I could clarify the record there.
Yeah.
The applicant at present at the July 2024 hearing agreed to the amendment as noted on the COA that was issued, which is your first bolded note, which is where the applicant agreed to install OGK style gutters at plumb eaves and half round gutters where the eave is perpendicular.
Yeah.
But a full gutter replacement is approved as the gutters are not historic. So the final result on gutter type should have been those two. And the amendment indicates that the applicant agreed to the amendment prior to the motion of the hearing.
Correct, I understand that.
Yes.
And we don't have that.
Not disagree with that.
And so I am understanding that there is one style of gutter currently on the property.
Correct, the half
Not
round.
matching the eaves and the COA that's issued here.
And you're asking for us to forgive that.
No, the staff recommendation is that the applicant return to what was previously approved.
Okay. Okay.
Does that cover?
No, I get you,
Yeah.
but I think
Okay.
he wants us to say it's okay.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Staff recommendation is to follow the issued COA on gutters.
And my understanding is from the staff recommendation is that the siding and the trim that was utilized for the siding, the staff recommendation would be to approve.
I got a question about this because I looked at the COA from July 2024 and it's replacement of aluminum siding. But I'm trying to see if there anything specific in the COA that would contradict the assumption that the replacement siding would be clapboard and not flush installation.
So, and if I can,
Installation is not appropriate on a historic house. In my opinion.
so regarding, and maybe I can provide some clarification.
Yeah.
The Boral lap siding that was approved, I believe on July 1st, 2024,
Okay.
is exactly what was installed. So I
That
think,
is not lap siding.
so it is lap siding.
Okay, technically maybe lap siding, but it's not clap.
Correct. So there's, I believe 5 or 6 different types of Boral lap siding, and it's not the lap portion that's the issue. I believe it's the overhang, because it's all lap
Yeah, the
siding.
shadows.
Correct. So,
Do we gotta go back to July 20.
That's what we're doing now.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's see what was
What is
approved in
the-
July of 2024.
um,
I couldn't find anything that.
on the certificate of appropriateness, it states, remove the existing aluminum siding, install Boral lap siding in the color iron gray.
Mhm.
Note, historic sidings to remain and be covered by the Boral,
Hmm.
which was exactly what was done in this matter.
This is Grant, you're right, sorry, oh my God, sorry. I was trying to shade. Right there.
Wait.
Number 5, G-1.
Word it.
The problem is not that's left siding, but that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could go to.
And obviously, we are attempting to conform with any restrictions and any requests made by this body at all times. And did,
Well, our conversation up here right now is that lap siding is not what we anticipated. You may be correct.
yes, and I think there may have been some confusion on both parties
Yeah.
on the issues because of the different types of Boral lap siding.
There.
I want to see what the cut sheet is on the siding.
That looks like.
24 or 6.
Without the gap.
There's, I'm sorry. One
There's a.
Do you, I think I might be able to find photos if you want photos.
And then.
We've got your existing photos. We're looking at for the original COA and original documents.
We are, now have the original documentation. This is what the commission reviewed at the July
Yeah.
2024 GBC hearing.
We're kind of looking for the cut sheet on the side next to this, I think.
Which would be. There, those details. Oh, I'm sorry, right there is the detail, if you zoom in there to the draw. That's sorry, because. Something, we don't really judge. We're limited, so it's that out. Okay, so then on the work description, or that's check. Scroll up.
Which was.
Yeah, you could put there and read the notes. About one, sorry. There were, take your child to work day was at the end of April.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Several that I account for some of those. What's the response you have? And then put down to this page, sorry. No. It's really, exciting. Which side of it? So.
It doesn't tell us it's for some vacation.
And for the commission, there was conversation at the hearing in terms of trim details, but they didn't make it to the final motion, and that's why they weren't included on that COA.
Yeah, the trim that was utilized in this matter was the trim that goes with the Boral lap siding. Same company, and then I don't want to say it's required, but I know it's what we always use when we do the Boral lap siding. Go with the same exact trim.
No, oh, yeah, right there. That would be, unless that's, what is this? That is your product material. That was submitted by the applicant in July or June 2024. It might not have made it to the final materials packet for July, but it was in the one that was reviewed, the first review in June of 2024.
So that is not just for color, but that was also for material.
I believe, yes.
I believe that's the
That was
color.
Example photo submitted.
I believe that's the color that was utilized for the.
That would have been, yeah, let's pull up the June as well in the folder system, sorry. Let's pull up the, we'll go back to. Let's go to. Sorry, yeah. We continue letters there next time. And so those were the notes on the first review there. On the bottom. So, yeah, the material. And so there's the work description as well.
Which is,
It does say how.
Yeah.
That was-
The gutter issue was,
But we clarified.
we clarified that the motion, it was amended fully, but the gutter issue still.
Yeah, they're specifically called out. You're just seeing if you have the, I guess, documentation for the vote on the siding that showed that it was supposed to be the two, or different appearance, I should say, yeah. We'll see it. And so because it wasn't in the COA, that's why the staff recommendation has to accept the specification.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm looking
As
for.
installed, and that's what the staff recommendation
Okay.
was. And then we will be specifying the page like page 78 and future approvals that it has to match that trim detail.
So one on us.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that is staff's perspective, is that the siding was not clarified and then not.
Yeah, okay, that's all I was trying to verify,
Yeah.
that we were.
Yeah.
We should have done our homework, our due diligence. Okay, so
Backgrounds.
K-styles.
Yeah. Rule of order is half rounds on perpendicular and,
K on plum.
yes,
So it seems the matter for the commission left to to determine, and maybe you just determined that with your statement, are the gutters? Is that your final conclusion on the gutters?
my opinion is it's not compliant with the June 2024 COA, therefore that needs to be corrected. That's my opinion.
So for clarification, we've moved to amend the July 1st, 24 COA.
So
Our guidelines are when the rafter tails are plumb cut, it is an OG or K type gutter, whichever way you want to call it. When it's a perpendicular cut, it's a half round. You
Understood.
have both on this house, and both types of gutters need to be on this house.
Okay, and obviously we request, especially since it was previously approved by this body, that the half round gutters be acceptable, especially looking at the traditional style and aesthetic appearance of having the correlating gutters all
I
surrounding
don't
the
believe
entire
that's what
house.
COA said in June
Yeah.
2024.
yes, to clarify, the July 2024 COA and the first note at the bolded note from July 2024 state the two gutter types were the approved gutter types. The commission through their conversation seems mostly, I won't say you're unanimous on it, that the siding and trim details were not clarified, so they're, I think, moving towards an acceptance of those based on
Yes,
administrative. But the gutters on the July 2024 COA were specifically called out of what was issued to the applicant.
That's completely acceptable. It's a very cheap fix. We have no problem doing that. Just figured this body would actually, the half rounds are more aesthetically pleasing and they look better.
we've got guidelines that we have to support and make sure
Yeah,
that
so is
everybody
this-
complies.
Is
so
this
that's-
due to a historical reasons?
Yes, yes.
From the
It's not
K style?
arbitrary or capricious on this,
Well, the
it's
K,
part of our garden, it's not arbitrary or capricious on this.
for my own edification, I'm just asking because the K style is actually a more modern gutter and used in more
It
modern
is, but
builds.
guidelines say when it's a plumb cut gutter, K-style is the appropriate type gutter. And when it's a perpendicular type gutter, cut, it's the roundest. Appropriate.
It's interesting.
Probably when it was vertical cut, it's more like a box gutter.
Yeah.
So yeah, K style is more like a box gutter.
Thank you.
I think we do have the box cut downspouts. Is that what you're referring to?
No.
No, just the angle of the rafters.
Okay.
The end of the rail.
So for clarification, the K-style gutters need to be installed on what portions? I want to make sure we get this right this time. And
Back of it.
Where they have vertical rafter ends.
vertical rafter ends.
Yep.
Perpendicular to the ground.
Okay.
It's,
Yes, not angled.
yeah. Like it looks like the front of the house is sort of perpendicular. Although the dormer.
But we were fine with that. Having all of the different ones.
Yeah. We work,
Like.
because we had a lot of conversation about it.
Have a lot of conversation. It's the dormer, it's the back, it's.
Yeah, and definitely down here.
Nick?
I was just saying, for the contractor, after a COA is issued, if they want to clarify specifically which one before they do work, we're, like, you can send that to staff, we can go, like,
Okay.
Line by
And
line.
who would be the best contact for that?
that's just the GVC at Columbus.gov. And then we would direct it to the historic restoration officer. Just to ensure that you're, the contractor is, like, we're on the same page about what is.
I know we've worked with extensively during the entirety of this process. I have emails going from. So we wanted to make sure we conformed as much as
Suggest that
possible.
we amend your application to be in compliance with the June 2024 COA regarding the gutters.
Okay,
That way we can vote on this and pass it.
fair enough. Move to amend.
Yeah, that's July 2024.
Yeah.
COA.
Thank you, that's the June.
Yeah, it was submitted in June.
July 1st, 2024.
Do I have a motion?
Acting chairman.
Yeah,
Whatever. I move on application COA 250048 for. It just disappeared. It's the street address.
Seven.
575 South Grant Avenue to amend as approved by the applicant to follow the July 2024 hearings for half rounds on
Case style.
by the COAs for the gutters.
Second,
Second.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Ayes have it.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah, but I need it.
Rooms. What sliding?
Got it.
Make sure.
We specifically page 78 in your motions.
We just need section of the side.
Yeah.
Profile, mine.
Profile.
Yes.
Ample photo.
All right, moving ahead, we got some here, 503rd South Third Street. No, 503rd South Third. All right, jumping ahead, item 13. Down by Mohawk. Awesome. COA 2500358-758 Mohawk Street. You start with conceptual applications. Once you're settled, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth,
Yes,
and your name.
Brian Hayes, and I'm here for Tracy Johnson.
Thank you very much. Nick?
This is a conceptual application for new construction and demolition to demolish an existing garage and storage building. Similar location and structure size does appear on the 1960 Sanborn map.
Did we skip over 503 South?
There was nobody here for it.
Oh, got it.
Maybe
Sorry.
Fast.
I thought you'd go back to this one. That's why.
I can proceed.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Construct a new single-car garage that is 14 feet 9 7/8 inches tall. And the materials are to include a white vinyl siding, aluminum gutter, wood trim and fascia, split face CMU, insulated aluminum panel garage door, and asphalt shingle roof. Staff analysis is that we note this application was originally on the May hearing, so you'll hear some May dates in here. At the May business meeting, the commission requested the applicant submit additional photo documentation of the existing garage and noted that thorough photo documentation would be required before the commission could determine if the structure was historic or not. The commission also requested HBO staff add any historic photos and relevant COAs to the materials package. In 2005, the German Village Commission completed a conceptual review for demolition of the garage with new construction of a new garage and concluded that, and this is a quote from that 2005 conceptual hearing, the age and historic significance of the historic garage should be established, and the commission requested a site visit at that time. In the HBO records, there are no records of the site visit, and when the applicant returned to the commission for action for the porch on the main house, which was also part of that conceptual review, the garage work was not included with the application, so that means that review was terminated at the conceptual. The 2005 materials packets and photos from 1988 and older are now included in the materials package. A garage of similar shape and size does appear on the 1920s and 1960s Sanborn maps as a metal-clad wood frame structure, and that is indicated by being yellow with a gray border on the Sanborn maps. The structure is also notated as 1 IRCL Auto, indicating it is a one-story ironclad auto garage structure. Based on the current documentation, it is likely the current structure is at least remnants of the original structure. So more documentation will be needed to evaluate its condition and age. Additionally, the proposed cladding materials for the replacement garage do not follow city code-driven village guidelines for cladding material requirements for a historic district. The application was withdrawn before the May hearing and is now on the June agenda for your review. And the commissioners at the June business meeting had no comments regarding the application. Or no request for information, I should say. Staff recommendation, this is conceptual, so no action is required by the commission. And the commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at future meetings. The relevant sections of guidelines and code are 3.1.6.14, standards for demolition. 3.1.6.12, standards for new construction, A through N. 31613, standard for site improvements A and B, and the German Village Guidelines 2005 amendments on for pets.
Anything else to add?
Well, during the Village Valuables, one of the people that lives in the house went into the garage and fell through the floor again. We've got several holes in the floor. It's a weird raised floor structure. It is really useless as a garage, and that's what Tracy would like. We're just hoping that, you know, that this one can go.
Questions, comments from the commission?
Typical commission position is, appears the existing garage is historic. We need some justification for demolition.
Well, it is falling apart. The rear wall has fallen away from the roof there. The roof is rusted through. The pine tree next to it is just gathering debris on the top. The floorboards, it's not really safe to go into. And because there's a space under the floor, we think we might have some vermin activity as well. It's attractive to that, it seems.
And the question comes, can it be restored?
Tracy would like to have a usable garage. So that's what we're here to try and do, to try and get her a garage that she can drive her car into.
And we're here to preserve the historic fabric of the
True.
village.
And this is step one, and we wanted to do it properly. So,
So it has this weird raised floor, so you can't actually park her car. in
right,
there.
you can't, and there's a concrete apron that leads you up to it. So you kind of drive up and into the garage. Well, you can't drive. We feel that it's past the point of being worthwhile to repair.
So we need documentation from an engineer for that.
Okay.
If we can get past the hurdle of demolition, that's always the first step, which is the one thing we can't undo. What goes back, we treat it as if nothing was there to start with.
Okay.
So you're gonna have issues with setbacks, you're gonna have issues with side yard, all that kind of stuff. The design as proposed has some small overhangs.
Mhm.
Right now, you're 9 5/8 inch off the property line.
Yeah, we're right on it.
Not sure if city fire folks are gonna let you have any overhangs. I would recommend looking into more of a flat roof style garage as opposed to pitch roof style garage. That mitigates overhang issues. There's several examples of them throughout the village, which speaks more towards historic language of what was there.
And that wall's gonna have to be a fire rated wall, and I forget how many hours it's gonna have to be because you're on the property line.
At least two.
Two.
From the current design, I think the fact that you got an 8 foot tall, 8 by 8 door, it's throwing proportions all off as currently designed. Typically the garage would be wider, 10-12 roof pitch, which you have here. But I think the lack of overhangs, effectively a square door as opposed to more rectangular shape, that more traditional 7 foot tall door. 8 foot wide's okay. Your side door is being driven to be 8 foot tall too, which I think is not typical for outbuildings. Less concerned about that since that's yard facing. But I think if you go to a flat roof type style, I think it mitigates a lot of your issues with the roof and overhang and everything else. All that said, still think we gotta get past the demolition.
The current house, I mean, the current structure has a fairly flat roof, and you can just see how all the material from the tree next door gathers on it. And so this was, you know, the desire was that we wouldn't recreate this, that this is a problem now and it'll be a problem in the future. So we were hoping to have a different roof style.
So you're gonna have to balance And I'm gonna go back to restoring this garage to be usable, and maybe putting a new floor in, whatever, okay? Because it is in place,
Mhm.
you can get zoning variances for there. If you tear this down, as Sherman said, and build a new garage, all the new rules kick in. And it may be more expensive and more difficult for you to build a single car garage there new
Mhm.
than to do restoration. I'm just telling you, you need to balance both of it and take both approaches as you make decisions going forward. There's a lot of times when I don't want to save it, but you know what? It's cost effective for me to save it and restore it
Mhm.
than it is to wipe it up, try to start all over again. So you need to balance both of them looking at it going down the road.
Well, sure, this is great to hear because this is kind of step one for us. And we wanted to do it through the proper channels.
I'm not saying it'd be restored. You may have a real loser here that's gone. But you gotta look at it both.
As far as the floor goes, I mean, if it's a matter of pouring a concrete floor inside this structure, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not tied to the floor as a
Architecture.
element.
Could you maybe tell me what the architectural elements that you like on this building are? What is to be preserved?
So this is a non-maintained example of a point in time style of garage that was brought out back in the advent of automobiles,
Uh-huh,
kind of a hit apart garage.
sure.
So when we get to the idea of is any historic material left? So the question is gonna be, has the siding all been replaced? Are the studs internally replaced? Is the roof structure replaced? And then what's rotting out is a newer roof structure. So if all the historic materials are gone and it's just a shell of historic, that gets you that point of, okay, it's time to start talking about demolition.
Mhm.
But if all materials are historic, and it's just the fact that the connections have rusted out, rotted out, and we can get everything pulled back together and weather tight, different conversation. But the shape, the massing, materials being of a time, historic time, and in the location where it historically has always been, is what gives this thing the historic legacy that's there.
Yeah.
Because the existing structure is kind of small. If we were to somehow save this, could it be enlarged?
Have done modifications to structures over time.
Mm-hmm.
Question is, what kind of modifications? The fact that this house has been added on, it's kind of penned itself in. There's not a whole lot you can do.
Mm-hmm.
We have to talk about what is it a matter of trying to get door swings, so you have to bump out the side?
Mm-hmm.
What we don't want to do is just say we're going to bolt onto the front of this thing, and now all of a sudden you just obscured all the historic fabric of it. At that point, what's the point of having it in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know how deep it is.
I don't think there's any room to go back with it because of the property line. Potentially bumping it out, well, northwest is, but on the left side.
North is left.
Left is enormous.
It looks like it still has its old trans doors, 220s electricity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no electricity in there now. So the carriage doors, that are there now, in order for a new garage, is there a potential to get it approved, with a normal garage door?
Yeah, we've done that.
Yeah.
You've done that?
We like garage door openers in this day and age.
And garages you can drive your car into.
Good point.
I think I will say that what door style goes back is going to be very sensitive in this situation. Because it's not a standard style of garage where you see traditional forms of garage doors.
Right.
So it may require some expertise, creativity to try to find a garage door that fits the architectural style. It
Mhm.
doesn't become jarring and.
But it's got the existing garage doors as a guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all very visible from the street.
It's not gonna be your bargain basement closed garage door. And the question comes, you're trying to do a overhead toilet or overhead door,
Mhm.
can the structure support this?
Mhm.
And getting into, do you do beef up the structure above? If you take out that ramp and lower the floor down and pour a new concrete floor, you get the height that you need.
The old roof will, need to be replaced. Has the board before, supported, garages like this getting a little taller?
Never had to raise the roof of a garage. If the ramp goes away, take
Uh-huh.
out the wood floor
Uh-huh.
or a new concrete pad,
Yeah.
can you get height by going down? Or is it still too short?
Uh, it would probably work. I was just wondering
You're
what
not
you
getting
guys
it.
thought.
Width is your problem.
Yeah.
It's very thin. And the new garage that we were proposing wasn't gonna be, really any wider.
Yeah.
It's 10-6 out the out, so if you do.
It's hard to open a door, but
Yeah.
it's what, it's the space she has. So by reusing the old structure, it would get us out of the problem of being so close to the property line.
Yeah.
One option, we don't allow garages typically to connect to houses.
Yeah.
You could, in theory, driving in this way. Part of that here, maybe it's a matter of bumping out,
Uh-huh.
something we could entertain.
We've talked
Get
about these.
a little more
Yeah.
door swing room in and out of the car.
Okay.
We've made concessions to keep historic structures intact.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a garage that was really short, so.
Yeah.
Backward.
When we build out the front too, and
We just
Jackson,
have one, it wasn't Jackson, it was,
cut the front on Jackson.
what is, there's a garage at a wedge lot.
So,
Front out.
that's Jackson.
The house is on Jackson, yeah.
Yeah.
So behind the meeting house in Jackson, there's a garage that we did extend the front out.
Okay.
Specific criteria, that original facade with the parapet had to stay.
Okay.
The additions need to be differentiating from it.
This one is a kind of a low slope flat roof that does have the little parapet on the front. So you would be in favor of recreating something like that?
Essentially, let's see what it looks like architecturally, how it's
Sure.
treated, how it speaks to the original architecture,
Now this thing's covered with vinyl siding now.
which was not original, so residing of it is a option.
Okay.
When it comes to siding materials, we typically take the stance of just because something was done that's not appropriate, don't, if we're gonna take it off, don't facilitate the perpetuation of wrong material. So we'd be looking to side it with a appropriate material as opposed to
Mhm.
taking vinyl off, put vinyl on.
In the guidelines, isn't there an amendment for vinyl siding? Is that just ancient and?
There's the amendment talks about artificial siding.
Yes.
And over time, we found that the vinyl siding doesn't meet the requirements of the artificial.
So that is no longer an option.
Vinyl has not been an option for.
It was, I thought I found a piece on the website that talked about where it was appropriate. No.
2005 amendments mentioned vinyl, but it's not in a
It's not a.
supportive manual
Yeah.
of 2005.
Yeah.
The guidelines themselves are written in 1989, 7.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
that's
late
where
80s.
the vinyl was mentioned.
2005, 2008 addendums, amendments that have been made to them. We have approved repairing vinyl, like if you gotta replace a couple pieces.
Hmm.
We looked, we have evaluated party strip siding.
Mhm.
And that has been found to not be an approvable material moving forward.
Mhm.
Because it doesn't perform well. It tries to be wood, but it does it very, very poorly, from a appearance standpoint. Boral, which is now
True exterior.
True Exterior.
Mhm.
That's a composite material that we've tested and is helped stood the test of time, and that's approvable. So right now it's really, it's wood and it's boral. However, I would say, from my perspective, if this Sanborn Map Evans, if this was a ironclad like I said, metal clad garage. I think that might open an opportunity to look at a different material of that type, if we can try to figure out historically what the siding would look like on this.
The roof is like a metal standing seam. I assume maybe if it was a metal clad, it would be, I don't know, board and bat wrapped with metal,
Or corrugated,
Yeah,
actually even.
corrugated.
that might actually be a non-combustible material, might help you with building department.
It's more of a modern design aesthetic, even though it's done many, many years ago. It's what some modern design.
Is this a wood frame?
Yes.
So, well, first of all, I wondered if it was one of those 1920 kits.
Hmm.
1900, 1920 kits.
There's a photo from July '69. Which gets all pixelated and blurry in the PDF, but I'm not sure if that original photo that you might have that has any better figuring out what material it is.
I can take a closer look and I can certainly bring it to the next review.
Is there a material board to pull it out?
Siding? It is.
It looked like it was wood siding.
It's metal wrapped on the
Yeah.
20 Sandwood maps, frame construction with a, specifically it's notated as the one IR clad, like one IRCL auto, which is like an ironclad material, but the Sanborn maps, it was metal of some kind.
Yeah, they would have that for
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it is guaranteed to be like a metal material on the 1960s with the Sanborn maps, because they were doing fire insurance protocols. So.
Yeah, so if we just identify that there was metal, it opens up the path to a metal. Question becomes, what's the kind of metal that was used on those kind of garages back then? Is there examples? Is there some reference somewhere in the archive on that website kind of thing?
Certainly could have been coordinated.
Or maybe there's an option of a metal siding that when we looked at some steel siding.
Still doing aluminum siding?
Room out there, I would seem used effectively. Some of the steel, you get the profile of wood, but it's thicker gauge, so it doesn't dig then.
The commission has a test case approved for Vesta steel, but it's not been installed.
That was at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the dormer. I'm still waiting. Yeah, still waiting for.
The COA has not been issued.
No. We're finished. So.
That help?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And if it makes sense to have a subset of the commission come out and take a look at it, when you get to the point of you want to pursue demolition,
Mhm.
we can organize a site visit and take a look and see what's there. Or have staff come out and take a look at it too.
If the structure were to be saved, is there a fine line between how much of it's brand new and how much of it's saved before it's a new building? Where's that line?
We say about 50%.
50%, and actually the building.
We gotta keep half of it?
Well, the new building code says, yeah, if 50% of the building is still retained, it does not kick in until level 3. You have to comply with
That's,
those.
yeah, that's exactly what, yeah.
50% of the existing structure or 50% of the finished product? Because if we make it bigger, then we gotta keep like 75%, you see what I'm saying?
Once you make it bigger, all that new, the new portion has to comply with model building.
New is
code.
just new. So the new portion, if we extended the garage, the portion of the wall that's on the property line that might need to get longer, that's
We have to go up to a 3-hour rate.
a couple layers.
Yeah. Looks like they're doing it.
There's no
Um,
rules.
I might understand if you're referring to the zoning code requirements, but that's not applying to the design considerations by the commission, is that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for coming in.
It'd be interesting to see what you come up with.
Yes. Back to the drawing board.
But there is a provision in the code that if you get someone who's qualified to sign off that your building is historic, then you can get a lot of forgiveness updating to the building code.
Technically,
Isn't that what we just did? I'm sorry, let me sit back down. I'm sorry, I thought we just decided that this was a historic structure because we had a picture from 1960 what?
Oh, yeah.
Technically, if you're in a historic district,
Uh-huh.
it's a contributing structure to a historic district.
Yes.
The only codes that apply technically are life safety. So structural, fire ratings, that kind of stuff, but energy code really, installations doesn't.
So how would we get this structure deemed historic?
It is historic.
What, I'm sorry, what was your point, ma'am?
Saying that another advantage to renovating what you have
Yes.
is that you get some forgiveness because it's a historic building in a historic district.
I-
Versus if you demolish it and build new, there's no compromise. You must follow all the modern.
How would we pursue that avenue?
By it existing, it is.
Yeah, you just mentioned.
It just is. It just is.
Yeah.
So for the stuff of you have 2x4 walls in your house,
Uh-huh.
new code requires certain insulation rating, which drives 6-inch studs. In a historic district, you can get away with not having all insulation and stick with 2x4s.
And that would be decided by the building department once I'm approved here?
Code review would take care of all that stuff.
Code review,
Yeah, you gotta make sure you push them for that, otherwise they're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
pencil in whatever.
what do you mean push them for that?
Sometimes they don't
Your
think.
justification for
Yeah,
doing
big
something is based on the historic
Your
base.
sheet mentioned this is a historic building in German village. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
There you
I just build them. Cool, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to item 14, COA 2500471, 191 Jackson. There are 191 Jackson. Don't hear it. All right, item number 15, COA 2500494, 555 City Park.
Hi, guys.
We can return to the Jackson Street. They asked if they could get conceptual feedback at the end, but they weren't able to attend.
Get it at the end.
Just so you have that note, sorry.
All right, if you both raise your right hands, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth of the truth.
Yes. I do.
Your name?
Elizabeth Seitz.
Thank you.
Brian Seitz.
Thank you much.
This is the conceptual application for an exterior building alteration. To alter the west exterior of the building to have the south garage door be 12 feet tall and the north door to be 9 feet tall with a 3-foot transom to align with the neighboring door per the submitted documentation. Glass on the garage doors to be frosted glass. Commissioners at the business meeting had no comments or requests for information regarding this application. HBO staff do have concerns over the major changes proposed to a primary elevation of a historic structure with non-historic materials and modern design. Noting that 555 City Park Avenue extends the length of block, so it has 2 primary elevations, basically. While the west elevation is changes throughout time, the newly proposed alterations alter the appearance of the alteration to more modern appearance, which proposes the recommendation of standards for alteration from City Code 4, 5, and 9. And we do note in 2022, the commission did approve major alterations to the property, including the installation of 2 garage doors on this elevation. But that design had 2 smaller garage doors that were to be custom made wood to blend with the siding material on the west elevation. And these were proposed to be the glass material. This is conceptual, so no action is required, and the commission, so the recommendation is the commissioner offer design feedback. The basis for the staff recommendation is 3011611 stands for alteration 1 through 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Anything else to add?
You. Again, we're just building off of the former COA to add garage doors onto that side of the building so that we can create a garage space. And we were just kind of building off of what was already approved. We actually, instead of the wooden carriage house doors that were approved in the 2022, we were going with the original idea that this used to be the trolley barn and more of an industrial type building in the neighborhood, and looking at the building further down Pearl Street. I think it's, and I've got the address here, sorry, to a more industrial type of garage door.
So is is this to modify an existing COA?
Well, so this COA that was approved in 2022 was to convert this from a business to a residential
Right.
property. So long-term, we want to turn it, we want to make it into a residential property. We don't necessarily want to follow the original plans from that 2022 COA that you could see further in that application. But we do want to mimic that western elevation with 2 garage doors. So really, we're just looking for feedback, design feedback from you.
There was another application after that.
Yes.
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 Yes. And they also proposed 2 garage doors.
Okay.
Which I don't think were, I think they were more of a,
They had a roll-up grill scenario.
because theirs was, Mark's reasoning was similar of this is an old trolley barn.
Yeah.
This end was open.
Yeah.
And if I can refresh your memory, Commissioner Field, I think it was you that stated that this wall wouldn't have been here, would have been
Yep.
open-ended.
Yep.
Right.
Therefore,
We actually had a picture of it.
do what we want. with this wall.
And then that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that this is strictly nothing more than just you want to modify the west elevation of this building.
Correct.
That's
I
right.
have,
Mr. Teal, if I could, real quick, that 2022 COA was converting this complex into a
Yeah.
10,000 square foot residential
yeah, and
facility.
I just didn't want this conversation. I just didn't want, I wanted to clarify that this was strictly talking about that and that this wasn't, all the other stuff is going to be approved along with this. That's,
No.
and that's,
No.
so,
We think we're going to be in front of you guys quite a bit.
yeah.
Yeah,
over the
over
course of the next.
2 years,
Lot.
you're gonna get to know us really well.
I have,
Yeah, COA is expired, so please come back. for
yeah,
everything.
that's the point. Good point. So I have absolutely no problem with what you're doing with the doors, and everything, except for one thing.
Yeah.
Please.
I wish both doors were identical.
Okay.
That is my issue. Whether they work the same way or not, doesn't matter, but doesn't have that break in the middle on the left-hand one.
Yeah.
They're absolutely identical
Okay.
to each other.
Okay.
My,
Paint should align the bottom.
Yeah.
transom.
Yeah, you can see what we were trying to do, which was with a transom panel, make them appear as though they were the same, but not have a 12-foot and a
yeah,
12-foot.
but not,
And
yeah,
I would even offer with the right door on the right, the south door, which is inset, to bring that
Yeah.
flush.
Break it all flush.
oh,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't read that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were trying to keep the structure as
Yeah,
it
no,
was,
thank you.
but if you're okay with that.
I think the north portion of the left door, I think there's a stone curb along it, but again, that wouldn't have been there originally. So you've got kind of a bit of a blank slate to work with. Not completely blank, but
Sure.
Yeah.
if you want to crib a little more into your space, or if you want to push them both back to kind of speak more
Okay.
towards the old opening, I think there's something you can do.
Okay.
Back would be good, because it would speak to that original opening.
Well, and that was one of the reasons why we wanted to sit and talk with you folks, just to learn a little bit more about whether we're trying to restore an old world bazaar, 555 City
No.
Park Avenue, or whether we're trying.
We had that conversation in previous applications of, you tell us what you're trying to do. If you're trying to restore it to an
Yeah.
estate, we had a pretty spirited back and forth of, they were looking to use parts and pieces from different timeframes of what they wanted. It's like, no,
Yeah.
if you're gonna try to restore it to something, pick what you're gonna restore it to, and that's the goal, that's the finish line.
Yeah.
But not 1950 here,
Yeah.
1970 here, that there's no
Yeah.
continuity.
So,
Fantastic.
perfect. Yeah, so that helps. So then if we look at this elevation, we could go back and redesign to make that west elevation more symmetrical, make them the same on each side. Do you have an issue with the 12-foot high?
I really
Okay,
don't, 'cause the
Okay.
The whole back thing of that was completely open.
okay,
To me, I think like I said, it's completely open. The purpose, the function of this end was,
bringing
Improvement.
those, yeah,
so to me, you can make those garage doors as big as you want, make it look and feel as if it's an open space.
mm-hmm,
Make the case that speaks to the history.
Great.
okay.
We do have an issue in the curb cut.
There's a curb cut. Well, there's no curb there. but-
There's no curb there.
Can't park there.
But isn't there a curb? There's a curb.
There is a curb there.
There is a
There's
curb there.
The curb cut is at the side of the building.
Yeah, we would like to propose, if you scroll down to the original, to the first picture. Again, much like what he's shown, if you,
It's a concrete curb.
Yes.
There would not have been a curb there originally because the trolley cars will come in.
No, there wouldn't,
And
but
there's no parking because you have a garage on both sides. It's
no,
not-
if you go back to the very first page.
It's signed as a loading zone right now that the,
So there, we would like to, much like, and I don't know if you can zoom in on that photo. She's next door to us, the black garage just kind of slopes down. What we'd like to do is keep that herringbone brick and slope that down as the entry into the space.
one curb cut or two.
I think it would be two, or it could even be, you could almost take that curb and just have it be a concrete band between the street and then the red brick herringbone, because then you would have, be continuous all the way across.
The curbs coming out, I just put a sandstone band along that, speak to what would have been.
What would have been there?
With cinders.
Yeah.
gravel.
Well,
This curb is a newer addition.
it is. Still looks concrete. It's definitely a concrete curb.
Yes, it is a concrete curb.
That street where it's typically, it's crowd.
There is a drain right,
In front of the power,
Yeah,
the
right.
utility.
right to the left of the power pole on both sides. So
Yeah.
there's, if you go down, there is a round floor drain. Whoops.
So ideally, you would, in the brick, you would actually build a gutter into the, it can be brick, but you'd lay the brick so that there is a gutter, so that that water draining from the high crown in the street comes over, gets into the gutter and runs.
So could you do kind of those, is it the metal grate that, I don't know what's underneath there.
Not out
I don't think we are
Here,
gonna do
see.
it for, yeah, I don't think
You
we were gonna
could
do that.
actually, the brick could be laid to make a brick gutter.
They also make shaped brick. I've seen those over in Europe, actually, those over there. They have like the little scoop
Yeah.
brick. You
Uh-huh.
can lay that out to make a gutter.
Gutter.
Your tires just go up over top of it. But it gives you that place for water to go, then drain towards the two drains.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your point is it's.
I mean, would you want to see
Yeah.
two curb cuts, or could the whole thing just continue
I
down?
think goes down.
I think
and-
the whole thing goes down. I think having two curb cuts is gonna be.
It's gonna be weird.
Yes.
Flares won't give you enough.
Flare, yeah.
Yeah.
It's to make walking pedestrian less better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sidewalk nasty.
Wacky.
I'm most curious about this piece. I don't think this does. If we had trolley cars coming in, this still would not have been original.
No. oh,
Yeah.
I'm curious of, if you're going to make interior condition, is the elevation of this parking area,
It's
Here?
there, yeah.
so does this need to all come out to get in?
Have you guys been there yet?
I didn't get a chance to do a second walk right
So are you talking about rebuilding the whole back wall, do these two doors?
We weren't really, we
We
were
weren't
just,
planning
we were-
until somebody may have made that recommendation
Yeah.
that we may or may not move forward with.
pardon me?
The overhang can go too,
there.
Kind of like the over.
Everybody goes.
Don't tell anyone, it's from the sixties.
It's historic, it's been there.
So it's right away, once it's gone, it can't come back, that's.
Right,
Right.
Yeah, but I think.
and it's on the front too.
For the commission on the door, the frosted glass and the drawing show the panels at the bottom. I just didn't know if you had feedback on those two elements at the doors.
If I could build on that, right, what we read was that there were certain conditions for garage doors in German Village that need to align with what a garage is considered in German Village, right? So the reason why we're here is to talk about whether this is a garage or whether this is an old industrial building that we're renovating. which we think has a big bearing on what those garage doors would look like.
Well, I just know what the frost did. That was more my, like, the actual treatment of them.
Yep, no, we would have gotten there.
No, I have no problem. You got frosted garage door, where's that?
From our perspective, it's a little bit of a safety thing, right? Like we'd like for
Yeah.
folks not to be able to see in there, which is why we're going with the
This
frost.
one's right down the street at six
Yeah,
four
that's a
four.
good example of something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Staff had no issues, we just wanted to get it on the notes for you.
yes,
There-
yes, perfect.
And then the panels on the bottom as well.
Yeah, the question really is, what's the look you're looking for? Might be good to have rendering
Yep.
Photoshop of each option.
Yep.
Yeah,
See, is it more shop industrial style? Is it more, let's say, blended obscurity style to kind of speak to the old trolley throughway kind of thing? I
uh-huh,
think we just need to know what your style wants to be.
Okay.
Then we can take a look at that from our perspective. So,
So I'm assuming you're actually are going to be rebuilding this back wall.
pardon me?
You are going to be rebuilding this back wall, everything
Yes,
in here. And this is the setback, which we like because we can see that corner.
uh-huh, so take that side back.
Are you okay with the setback?
the offset?
The offset, yeah, because quite honestly, we kind of like the shadow line that's created with depth.
I would prefer it gone.
So just one solid face.
The doors and everything are in the same plane. That's me.
Oh, I thought you were talking about setback from the
The brick.
exterior walls, the brick walls.
Yeah.
But a single setback.
But one
Single
setback,
setback.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought,
the offset and
I thought you were allowing them to pull that forward to be flush with the brick.
no, the other way,
It's not,
the other way.
yeah.
I think Ned's right. I think the better approach is to push it all back to that furthest back plane. So you can get those big buttress bricks to stick out.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Speaks more towards what was there at one table.
I think the beam that's going across the top is just inside the overhang, which would be proud of the line that you're talking about. Does that make sense?
Is there a beam up there?
I believe there is, yeah.
From I remember the pictures, even, and I may be wrong about this. Is the roof trusses, are they wood or are they metal?
Wood.
Wood, okay.
If you can go to sheet A1. Yeah, right there. Zoom in to the floor plan.
I think it was bad.
I think what we're looking at is a little more so we can see both sides. That works. So down here, it looks like this wall is tucked behind the
Yeah.
Yes,
buttress.
yes,
The other one kind of up.
yep.
I think the sweet spot
It's kind of
is somewhere,
right.
not sure if this.
And
this
that's where I
step
think
back, we still have some,
Yeah.
yeah,
but I think in there is that sweet spot.
okay,
Yeah.
Depending on, again, structurally what's above.
okay.
It makes
Okay.
sense, but as far back as you can get.
Perfect.
I'm pretty sure that beam is above the door, which would be, holy cow, to the south,
Yeah.
which is at the top of your
Yeah.
page, sorry. But we can go look at it and come back with
Yeah.
a solution.
We'll probably want to cut section
Mhm.
through that.
Of course.
Okay.
With the buttress in the background.
Seems like the beam would be tied into that masonry.
But, yeah. Yeah, no,
You know, I mean, how it's thickened and.
Yeah, where the man doors are right now, you can see where it comes up. I mean, it's just a knee wall, for lack of a better term.
Also throughout, you also have the opportunity with having this much width and space, you get swing doors. As opposed to rollers, just
Oh,
that,
that's true.
or a big open.
Does the garage?
How do I make that work with my butt?
Sure, I'm got electronic ones. They're out there.
How much space do you think they take up on the inside of
They're
that thing?
cheap, but they-
Oh, okay. suddenly it's a 6-car bay garage on the inside.
The door opens up across the street.
All right.
So just for clarification, you guys are okay with similar sized doors? Okay with the 12-foot openings? Okay with a glazing slash panelized slash frosted? Again, that, I think our decision is whether is a safety thing, right? Do we really want people looking in and seeing what's in there? Versus,
I can't think of any of the villages that are not frosted.
Does anybody use the dark tinted glass instead?
No, they're all frosted.
Okay.
we'll come back with a recommendation. Okay. Fantastic. When do you guys want to come out?
You should see what you come up with.
Okay.
Oddball, one-off, don't get this option, that option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited about it. It's certainly going to be a bit of a process for
Yeah.
us. We're looking at it being probably close to a 2-year
2
plan.
or
so we'll
3-year
be
plan.
Back
We'll
in front of
be
you a
back.
couple more times.
You know what that means?
6
4,
years.
yeah,
You guys been at the East Market?
yes,
Yeah.
That would be good to take some Zang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's beautiful.
Very
Great.
good. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last conceptual is COA 2500501 202 East Beck Street. Welcome, welcome. Once you're settled, if you raise your right hand. Go ahead and tell truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes,
And your name.
Dusty Hurst.
Very much, Nick.
This is conceptual for an exterior building alteration. To remove the door at the front west of the house and replace with a window for the submitted rendering. To remove a deteriorated chimney at the rear east of the house. To remove the existing vinyl and siding and trim and replace with a James Hardy and a cobblestone for the siding and Arctic white for the trim. And to remove and replace windows and storm windows with new Geldwin sightline windows. Staff analysis, at the business meeting, the commissioners requested more pictures of the door, requested any completed engineer's reports for the chimney, and requested any interior photos. The commission also noted the door was not likely to be supported. The commission has upheld that historic chimneys are often architecturally significant contributing features that should be retained on historic properties. So HPO staff do recommend the applicant consider alternative design that include retention of all historic chimneys. Noting that the Board of Commission of Appeals has upheld that the chimneys are historically contributing. The HPO staff found that alterations that change opening size are generally not recommended for the GB guidelines and would therefore recommend the door remain unless significant changes over time to the opening can be provided. Some windows do appear in relatively good condition with peeling paint and small areas of deterioration. And some windows do show signs of significant deterioration from the photo, so it looks like a mix of conditions. This is conceptual, so the staff recommendation is for no action to be taken with the commissions to offer design feedback. The basis for that recommendation is 31611 standards for observation 1 through 5, 6, and 12, the German Village Guidelines, page 108 for elements of the roof. The German Village Guidelines on entrances and doors 1 through 9, and the German Village Guidelines for windows, recommendation 6, with the whole recommendation of the cutoff version and chapters.
Anything else to add?
Maybe piece by piece. So, I chair a preservation board in Champaign County. So my first goal with any of these projects that we do design work on is saving as much as we can possibly save. My one question with the windows, did anybody go out and look, or was that just from photos? Do you know?
It's completely based on the photos at
Okay.
this point, and if you would like to coordinate a site visit based on feedback from the commission, staff would come out.
Based on feedback, I would say that was an option, but it's really the whole framing of the window that is completely dry rotted. Or I mean, this isn't neglected. When they called to do the house, I mean, I'm on Beck a lot, and I'm like, where is this on Beck? And it's off the alley, so you don't really see it. But this house has been untouched, I would say, probably from the 70s or 80s. It's been modified multiple times over the years. Luckily, Main structure, window sizes, door sizes are original, but interior has been changed multiple times. There are a few windows that have been, I think, closed. The base structure, if you're familiar with a lot of these ones that are in German Village, they usually have a staircase going up the central part of the house. I would say probably in the teens, maybe early 20s, the staircase was moved like kind of in front of the front window where you can see in the bottom right where it goes up. So one of the issues with the door in front, the couple that bought it, they live out of the area, or they would be here as well. She's a state representative, so they need a place for her to be when she's on duty. When the staircase was moved, it clips the corner of the transom in the door. And so at some point, somebody to alleviate that cut part of the structure out of the support in that staircase. So we'd like to put that back to make sure that it's supported, but then they don't like the sight line, which I do have additional photos of that from the interior if you want to see them, but where they feel it's odd that it clips off. That's perfect. You can kind of see where it dips up, where we pulled that out, and that's where it cut down. So it should be down probably close to 3 more inches and clips off over the corner of the transom, which they don't like. The door, honestly, from a design standpoint, I don't think it's a make or break scenario. If we had to keep the door, I think we can work around that. Windows are one thing that I don't think that we would be able to work with. Rebuilding, it just gets into the complete structure. We're going to have to kind of reframe anyway for those shelled ones to come in. The only ones that were really kind of in relatively good condition that were even safe to operate, you can tell were not original. I would say they were probably put in the 80s. They look original, but there's a couple that are just odd. Chimney standpoint, exterior wise, obviously, yes, it's odd that one's stucco and one is brick, which may be why it's damaged. The interior, when we did start peeling back some of the layers, there was a kitchen and kind of a cavity in front of one in a bathroom. And when that wall came out, I had a mechanical pencil and just went right through the brick. It's just powder. So, and in the one photo, you can see at the base where, and I have some closer ones too, the bricks they're missing and kind of have just fallen down into the base of the chimney. There, and it's just powder where a lot of the stuff has come down, whatever. But the top one, so this is a view from the second floor. And so like kind of where the black is, it's just obviously moisture from over the years. And I'm wondering if the stucco has just held moisture kind of into the brick and just allowed it to kind of deteriorate. And it's been sealed on the wall. The front chimney is 2 exposed fireplaces. And so the intention originally was to keep both, but that one is staying regardless. It's not functional. This one has no function whatsoever. We did provide the engineer's report. We also had the engineer kind of look at, is there a way to keep the exterior portion, make sure that it's safe? Where could we take that off inside and support it? And the recommendation was no. Just the weight of what it is and whatever we do to the inside, unless it's completely rebuilt, it's going to collapse at some point or deteriorate. So one of the solutions that we've thought of, because the back one is stucco, could we recreate it as a non-functional, whether it's a wood frame and then supported with, a stucco exterior or a veneered brick or something else, just to keep the maintenance or the maintain the view essentially of the aesthetics on the exterior. That is an option. Right now, we just have the quote to repair the slate roof, if it was taken out, but we have no issues with trying to recreate something, just not rebuilding from basement up for something that's not functional. It impedes probably about 18 inches, I think, into the structure as well. So just kind of problematic to recreate and, it's unsafe. And that's typically how we look at it. Preservation and our angle there is safety versus the aesthetic. We'll recreate if we can, but safety is obviously the top priority for us. Exterior wise, Siding is the hard part, I think, with German Village and finding what's recommended. Windows, amazing, shingles, amazing that it's all in the guidelines, but and I didn't know, even working with historic stuff for quite a while, what the siding guidelines really are. So it sounds like wood or boral is the way. There's multiple layers. We have vinyl. I think underneath there is kind of an asphalt kind of coating as well. We're happy to kind of peel back and see. What I do know is when that staircase was moved, in the early 1900s, it looks like there was kind of odd window placements based off of that have been patched over. So there would be some problems with that, but wood, we obviously just in the nature of the field, we know that recreating wood is going to be a little bit more than probably even boral. And obviously if Hardy's not supported, we respect that. We'll look at other options for those pieces. The two main pieces that we have right now that we were looking at, windows, door, and the chimney, because that will kind of affect phase one of the project, which is the interior. Our goal is to get interior done so that they can get her moved to be closer to the State House, and then exterior will follow. So if we need to continue anything on the exterior with discussions and that, we're perfectly happy to do that.
I would say as you're doing your interior demo, when you're finding framing of what was there versus patched in, that's always the avenue to put more holes back in.
Mhm.
You go back to what was there. If that's a desire.
And yes, but we in this case wouldn't, just because of the odd placement with how the new.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah, we're basically the house will end up. It's a smaller footprint, so it's really going to be kind of an open structure up and down. The woodwork had been, the two front rooms were the only ones that have original. I would say the others were modified, maybe even in the 40s, which is still stunning, but it just doesn't fit the air of the house or recreating. And so just with that kind of open footprint or whatever, the odd window would just kind of be oddly placed with the old stair placement. So luckily that's the only one. All of the windows are, except for the one in the back in the kitchen, they're the same size, which is very rare. I mean, even in the older homes, but they would all be the same size with going in.
So to address your front door, I think the front door has to stay, doesn't have to stay inside,
Sure.
but the appearance of
Yeah.
that door needs to be on the outside.
I think I'm happy to work around that.
I hate to say ditto for the chimney.
Okay.
We got a lot of masonry chimneys that go above roofs, but don't go onto the floor below. Don't know how they did it, but they structured the load to carry it. Of course, the less you got coming down through the building, the less you have to support.
Well,
or you
the pitch of the roof was because we thought with the second floor, the deterioration on the second floor, we would have to redo that piece to keep it. Taking it off above the second floor isn't an option just because of support.
Yeah.
And that if this one, the houses on the back and that brick house
Yeah.
essentially connects like the roof line.
Yeah.
And so with their cars and things, we're like, what do we do? Can we support it, to the roof? Can we brace it? What can we do? And with the engineer, it was basically a no, it's recreating or taking it off at some point. The second floor would be an option, but I think we'd still have to rebuild just because it's powder.
Yeah.
Another question. The engineer, seeing this same engineer pop up over and over and over, always on tear down chimneys.
Oh,
it's always
interesting.
on tear off roof. It's always on demolish things where this specific engineer I've never come across him myself.
Good to know.
Not saying anything bad about him. I'm just questioning, is he out there?
No,
working? Like
we've been in business 25 plus years, and he's one of our go-tos just for trustworthy purposes. And like I said, I would not be taking this to the level of taking it down if it was something that was not a safety issue or something that needed to be fully recreated to do. And that's where it was like, if we have to take it out to rebuild and it's not functioning for anything, can it be a veneer or a structure that is lighter weight, whatever to support, but still look natural to the appearance of what's there?
There's only one that I know of in the last 20 years that we allowed them to do that. There's one I know that was done without a COA.
Park Service just let us do one in Denver, just
Did
to
you?
have the chimney put back.
Okay. Good enough. So
But
that's,
they would rather have that than no chimney.
and I totally buy that.
We the one application that we denied, they went to zoning. That was a situation of, they wanted to cut up the second floor. And by cutting out the second floor, they had to take out from above.
Yeah.
And we denied, and it got upheld.
Mhm.
There was conversation early about taking the bricks off the chimney, cutting them, and basically making a thin brick. We were not receptive to that. There seemed to be a little.
No, and this wouldn't, you'd have powder pasted if that was the case. So, and that would be my thing with the veneer. I mean, if it's stucco, obviously we can stucco it, very similarly. It would obviously not look as deteriorated as it is, but stucco would be the easiest, simplest way. Brick, we have a lot of avenues to find brick, but I don't care what you do or where you find it. It doesn't look old.
If you did go with the false chimney, as I'm sure you did, it would be built to last a long time.
Mhm.
The one I know that's not CO, I keep looking at it, waiting for it to fall apart, because I know that they.
Yeah, no, we would
It's
ensure
one of
that.
these, it's just gonna come off the house, so it's on second.
No, I think the liability with this one, just with the proximity, because none of this, so where the car is parked, we have nothing around this exterior except the right side where the
Yeah.
doors are. It's just enough total of walking space, but there's no parking, there's none of our. So that's the concern with anything that would fall here is gonna fall on their cars or them in the driveway essentially. So clearly we'd like to avoid
Yeah,
that
this
liability at all
liability.
costs.
The only other comment I had was regarding the siding and the windows, and I think we've covered that, and the fact that we need to establish what the condition of both are before you go ahead.
Sure.
And I think part of that conversation also moves in the siding conversation when we're ready to do that, because it looks like you mentioned, there's built up layers of siding,
Mhm.
trim. How
Yes.
much original trim is
Sure.
back there?
Yep.
It's all pushed out. past
No,
it.
I think, even if it was a boral or something, like if we can't save, whatever is there for the actual wood, trim lines, those sorts of things is what we would want to recreate. If it is a different type of, siding look or something like that, if it is a lap or what we're doing, I think I would imagine this design would probably have a smaller, kind of bandboard on the sides or something there or whatever. But if there is something around under the roof line, any sort of banding or something, we would want to recreate what that is. The hard part is getting there, making sure that when we do tear it off, we then can order or design what it is that's there. But the big components now, just with interior wise, would be kind of chimney, window, the door. Like I said, we can definitely work around the design of the door. That was just kind of a wish list from the homeowner of can we or does it make sense? But window wise, we would be kind of rebuilding some of the interior actual framing of the house just from the rot. So we would want to do that soon, just before obviously, right now we're in process of wiring and plumbing. So we've kind of just held off on those pieces and around those windows just to see if we can get them, so we can get that framed up and make room obviously for the new ones.
It's got box gutters.
I don't think so. I don't know if it doesn't appear to be like from the interior, because the ceilings are out in the attic. It's exposed attic now, and it doesn't look like it was there.
It looks like they are.
There. Yeah.
Interesting.
But no.
That comes out, yeah, it is.
As problematic as they are, I'm happy to see that, because
So wait.
strikes out an issue for us of creating any sort of gutter or whatever. And I'm actually shocked if that's the case, because there's no sign of, the roof is slate. There's no sign of leaking or anything with gutters, which is
Slate.
shocking too.
For the applicant, if you'd like staff to come out and do a site visit, if the windows are determined by staff to be deteriorated beyond repair, the window replacement can be a staff approval.
Okay.
So you can do that.
That would be perfect if we could. Siding, things like that, obviously we can trail that, not as many meetings as possible, but we can get into that because that's another phase. But just with the interior pieces, windows would kind of come along with that. So
And then, yeah, it's a staff, if staff determines they could be repaired, this is back to the commission for those.
Sure. Yep. Do you, if we have like 3 windows that are relatively good condition, but then the other 12 are bad, I mean, do you then say replace them all so they match, or is it let's repair those 3 and then replace the others?
And is it like a 4 on the principal facade or original, replace the rest of them? Well, we'll pick the ones on the that are together. If it's mixy matchy all over, then it might get to the point where we just say.
Perfect. Okay. I assume that, but just
But give them
want to
a
make sure.
So,
Yeah, we'll set that up.
You have the email address.
Okay, yeah.
The email, so give it.
Perfect.
still a little trimmed Arctic salvage. Good stuff.
We saved actually as much as we could save. It's a shame that the house, I'm actually shocked that it's been taken care of like it has, right that close in that block of back.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I wouldn't talk about that because some of us know who the person that lived there.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, regardless.
I know, no
I would,
bias.
yes,
I get
no,
it's
but I would, I mean, it's
It's not better though.
sure. No, and it's not, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily the way that it's been lived in. It's over time, the modifications that were made and then not, just a lot of things.
It probably was not the previous owner, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I mean, obviously, it's just been untouched. I wouldn't say it's not something that we're like dirty, it's whatever. It's
Yeah,
completely untouched for 50 plus years.
Just cool as over.
People make like fun choices when they're just doing things inside of their own home too, so.
Surely.
Right. Any more information you need from us?
No, I guess, how do we handle this, I guess, moving forward as far as chimney goes? Windows will coordinate, site visit, whatever. The chimney would be the one thing that we would look for direction on how to move forward.
I support Churris's solution.
It's reconstructed lightweight thin brick. As you said, the brick is already shot.
Yes, so essentially we can remove and then we would reconstruct exactly what is there. Do we need to submit plans for the look of that, or do we, I mean, is it conditionally approved based on that condition?
Get good photo documentation, measurements.
Certainly.
Of what was there, so it can go into the file. So when we go down the road in the future and someone do something, we say, oh, this was rebuilt.
I don't want to be
standards.
one of the previous meetings sitting here when it was not done correctly, so we will
Yes,
avoid that at all
you need to
costs.
stay away for all that.
Certainly.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Okay.
No exterior work without the COA
Yeah,
fuel.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Site work planned on?
No site.
Yeah.
Right? That was the hard part, where like we could do an aerial
6 inches.
type of view. Yeah.
4 feet.
Yeah, the neighbor on the backside, there's actually like a storage, it's not necessarily a shed, but a storage structure that's actually attached
Yeah.
to this house,
That's
so we're
the
like,
Creed house, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a little confusing figuring it all out.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. It's been very, compared to what we deal with out there, this is very enlightening to sit through your meetings, so.
We do deal with different sometimes. We've got 2 go backs at least.
Yeah, we have one.
There was the conceptual where they requested
Yeah,
the
go
feedback,
back to the
thanks to that
conceptual.
one first.
All right, so that was Jackson, right?
Yes.
Also COA 2500471 Jackson.
Yes.
Director that is not here.
Yes, and they did ask for staff to seek the conceptual feedback. But this is a conceptual exterior building, conceptual application for exterior building alteration, landscaping and demolition. To demolish the existing rear deck, to construct 2 mini deck stairs out of wood per the submitted plans, to convert the existing window on the west elevation into a door. The existing window has been removed and stored on site. That work has already been completed there. To remove the existing fence and replace with a picket fence that would be 34 inches in height per the submitted documentation, and to re-landscape the area to include new pavers and plantings The staff analysis at the commissioners of business meeting requested more labels on page 8 of the PDF, the update of the updated plan. And the commissioners were perplexed by what was going to happen and an additional label would assist in clarifying what's being proposed. HBO staff updated the materials from the business meeting as I was informed by other HBO staff that there was some confusion about those materials being how they are organized. So they've been updated by those requests as well. This is conceptual, so no action is required. So the commission should offer design feedback based on City Code 31613, standards for site improvements A and B, the German Village guidelines for walk sidewalks, patios, and parking lots, page 125, and then recommendations 1 through 5. The German Village guidelines on fences and walls 2, 3, 5, and 7, and the German Village guidelines for entrances and doors 1 through 9, and the German Village guidelines on windows as well.
All right, feedback from the commission. Got one to start with, work our way down. Fence changes. Are they recreating a schoolhouse fence in picket wood?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it was heard too.
I mean, it's an interesting concept, but I don't think it was. It would be page,
Serious?
yeah, that blue down below.
That's
We will build a fence for remaining length using 1x4 furring strip board for the pickets. Fresh sheet of wood for the posts, paint white to match the line fence.
Does look like, from what I'm understanding, they want to retain the sections of wrought iron fence that are there and then, yes, use wood to replicate to carry the fence. And I recommend, so the commission would like to see more traditional fence styles.
No,
I just.
I'm intrigued by it.
I do too, I just don't, I never had
I'd,
thought.
I'd be willing to give it a run.
That's wrong.
I'm not.
Okay, that's fine, no, that's absolutely fine.
I don't know,
Some commissioners.
That's absolutely fine.
I don't know how I feel about it.
I don't like it.
That's fine, no, that's absolutely.
It's partly because the radii on
They don't
wood
match.
don't
Yeah.
match.
There's no
Well,
posts
that's good.
that
Yeah.
separate, well,
Where's the
gap?
How are they gonna treat the posts?
yeah.
So we need some information.
And this,
Wow.
it looks like they're adding 3 feet of fencing in this space, is what I'm understanding. So that's the only, like, they're gonna add 3 feet onto the iron of this method.
Where is this?
So I agree, the radius should match, absolutely.
This is on the alley side.
That's not what the plan shows, though.
Okay.
If you
Yeah,
go
it says they're
one
taking
sheet
the
up,
wood down on this.
they're showing it from, so there's a little round post by the house near line 50. And the fence is running clear back to line 85.
Yeah.
Are they changing height of fence somewhere?
I think we're changing height and style. I think what we're seeing is this is
So between 65 and 75, maybe they're changing to wood, or those are gates, maybe.
I think that is a movable, like,
Yeah.
I'm seeing a sliding gate is what I'm
Okay,
seeing in
yeah.
that point. The second word.
We need more information.
But you can kind of see
There,
there where
yeah.
the planning for it to start. I don't know the terminating.
They don't. Yes, page 21, there's annotations, which should help. It's still confusing what's happening past. So roof fence, add 3-foot fence and fruit trees.
It's a 3-foot tall fence.
Right.
My confusion there, I apologize. So that's the 3 feet. They are extending it all the way back.
Okay,
Thank you, sorry. Oh, that was my confusion.
that's on Allen too, right?
Well, why is it jogging?
Need to find out.
I can ask for additional information about the gate and why is it, and why is it 10 feet wide?
Gate is good, yes.
I'll add it to the notes.
It's the fruit tree. Oh, it's on the.
Okay, so that's the fence piece, which was interesting.
So there's some divided thoughts on,
Yeah.
you'd like to have more details confirmed.
Yeah, we had like a mock-up that we usually see.
Like a full, like of the elevation mock-up.
Wouldn't hurt.
They gotta have posts in there somewhere. I wanna see what it's gonna look like.
It's a form we've not seen before, so we don't know how it works.
And I'm not sure retaining the 6 feet of the original is worth it, so.
It's behind that 6 foot wood. That's it. It's behind it. So they're removing that 6 foot wood, this little 3 foot wrought iron is in front of it. That's what they're. Okay, yes, this makes more sense.
And it looks like they've added some things there, maybe some fencing that had already been removed.
Yeah, yeah,
6 feet wood.
Yeah. Okay, that's also what threw me. Okay.
The existing window that they're calling out.
Yes.
So this window was replaced with a door without a COA?
The window was removed. Can you see what the photo of the replaced shoes? Yes, so the code violation was written while the work was in progress. And that's why the window is still stored on site.
Sure.
I think it's not even there. Perfect, thank you. So that is the intention of where the door would go, and that was, I believe, the window from there.
So you've already,
The window is still there.
they've already framed out the door opening, so they put a door in.
That is where I'm understanding, but it's no.
I put that door in.
I don't know, yeah, that's what I couldn't tell either. It's like the doors behind it, this is protective or. That's the window there.
Yeah, parts and pieces.
The like greenish,
It's not bad, like it's finished.
unless that's just insulation.
And maybe green board.
Yeah.
But that is the location of where they're wanting to put that door.
If they showed a door,
Somewhere.
Towards the beginning, I think there's a door. Oh, right there, sorry.
yeah, interior door?
Yeah. Opening to be insulated flash.
I mean, slated.
Hey.
Is it operating? Is it operating door?
The goal is, I think this is the operational door here.
Okay.
Where they've taken out the window, put in a new operational door.
What about the trims that are added?
And how old's this addition on the back that they're doing?
Yes.
And yes, they did specifically call it the 4.5 inch trim for the rest of it.
The door that they are salvaging and putting in place. The sketch they show, there's no true above the door. Like they're showing the door the same height as the gutter.
I think it's too tall. Wait.
Right there.
Go back
Go back up to.
Yeah, keep going more. There. Those, they just slide right underneath there. That ceiling's gonna be awfully low in that addition.
If you scroll down 3 pages, you'll see their mocked up elevation, down out of the way. Yeah, right there. There's no trip of the door. The door is just flushed to the back.
Because they keep fighting.
I don't think they have enough space.
I don't.
I think it'll knock the gutter off. Go up.
Well, never mind that.
I think they're doing just
3 feet.
This is the mic that doesn't turn on. Yeah. Just the side trim.
Yep.
It's just being proposed.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
So is it better to like put in a short door with the right trim?
Better to put in an exterior door, but
That's salvage door?
Or the
Looks like
door,
it.
it's not a perfect place for a door. Door wasn't there in the first place, no reason.
Door also doesn't follow guideline.
Yeah. Are we, this was back to my point, are we doing exterior decisions because of the interior design? This is what's driving what here.
Yeah, so it's appropriate to take the window out and replace it as something.
Yeah.
Done it.
I'm fine with the decks that they're proposing, the mini decks,
Sure.
it's backyard, whatever.
Yeah.
Seems weird, but I think it's odd that the way it lines up with the door opening. And,
They're
you know,
gonna
the
fall
fact
off the
that
edge.
you've got a 25-inch drop there, then
Mhm.
they should be wider than the width. of the door. But there's an air conditioner there too, so there's not a lot of room.
I'm curious as to why that top portion of the deck is not up towards the
Door?
door.
I think they heard us about the water tables. Or maybe their existing deck falls down. Yeah, right there, can you scroll to one?
I think existing deck would not have extended that area, it didn't extend into that part of the house. Because it was a window to start, so.
Where is this at?
Backside.
There is no approval for the deck.
Oh my
file,
God.
so.
Want to know you're not in town where this house is? It's just up in Lowell, and the alley runs down.
My other comment is gonna be on that
explains
door
that,
replacement,
and that-
the way they're showing the swing is wrong. Hopefully they're not planning on doing it that way. If you look at the elevation we're just looking at with the replacement door. It's roll all the way. One more, yeah. So right now the door swings on the left. Come out that door, we're falling off the edge of the deck. I'm assuming they're installing it the other way, but I just want to make sure.
They have it swinging in.
Yeah, on the drawings.
Plan, on their plans, next one. Sorry, the third one.
Still, it's odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. That door doesn't go in there. Whole thing's mitigated.
I think it's the salvage door. And they're. Isn't existing, latching. Oh, no, there's no latching, it's window.
Yeah.
So why?
I don't think it's appropriate. Door, one location. So it might just be moot. I've got no problem landscaping proposed. I think it's the door and the connected deck because of door location and the fence concept.
Do they list the tree types?
Fruit.
Yeah, the two fruit, that's all I could get.
It's gonna say species for.
So is our feedback then that the proposed door is not, it's not appropriate? Doesn't look like it's sized correctly.
Size.
Won't fit in the
Won't
wall.
fit, yeah. And then,
Can't get the proper trim around it.
yeah. And we need to better understand the fence, the proposed fence situation.
Yep.
Some illustration of what and why they're doing.
So it looks like they've got a door over that door, so that you're kind of at the edge.
Maybe the inside door is on the other side. I've seen that too.
So are they indicating the back part of this they're using for parking? Yeah,
You can have
because they
those-
are. I actually walk by this every day. And make the connection.
They're calling that gravel area.
Yeah. I know waffles, which is probably why there's sliding gates there.
And that would not be compliant with city code
Nope.
if they're putting in a parking area. It has to
Yeah.
be- it can be
Solid
gravel.
surface parking areas.
Yeah, that's why, yeah. That is the parking for the house, it has been.
Yeah, and if it's like the existing, then they can't, like, we can't like force to compliance, but if they're making alterations.
I think it's, I would say now at this point, it's all bricked up, whatever pavement material back there's. Backyards are just fast.
Is that everything?
You could say a thing. Kaiser Alley, not hurting us out.
It just runs from Jackson to, yeah, Blake, yeah.
Which alley?
Hmm?
Which alley?
Pfizer Alley.
Oh.
It used to run to, Beck. But when Andrea Camber built her house, she had it abandoned.
Oh, what's that house? That area, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh.
Great. We do need to kill off the other two before we close.
Continue?
Continues. Get the numbers there, Dan?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, on COA 2500447239 Lansing Street, I move to continue.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
And on COA 250000545 South Third Street, I move to continue.
Second.
Any question on the motion? Those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, something else.
I had one quick thing to tell you all, just kind of, the reason the July hearing is the locations to be announced is because they're gonna be doing renovations of the hearing room this summer, so we're gonna be moved to alternative locations. Most likely for July 205, but we could also be elsewhere, just to let you all know that in advance. First.
Yeah.
Dennis?
I don't know any of those.
Bruce,
No.
or Laura? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
Any question on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Against? Ayes have it.